Chapter 85. Sitting in Li Changxing's position, he could see Yang Xiaowei and Lu Yao's back. If they didn't turn their heads, it would be difficult to find Li Changxing sitting behind them. At this moment, Yang Xiaowei was holding a cigar in one hand, while his other hand was constantly moving around Lu Yao's back. Li Changxing understood Yang Xiaowei's character the best, and he couldn't help but sigh slightly. No matter how Lu Yao chose, in the end, she was not a good person. Back then in class, she couldn't even lift a finger to help Yang Xiaowei. Now, she was nestled in Yang Xiaowei's arms with an attitude of letting him do whatever he wanted. She didn't know that Yang Xiaowei only wanted to return her student ID, but Lu Xiaowei treated her like a plaything. In the end, it was because he was just a poor boy in her eyes, while Yang Xiaowei was a rich second generation. If he didn't wear cheap clothes at that time, but wore branded clothes and drove the luxury car that Su Xiaolin gave him, perhaps when he saved the beauty last time, she would have already slept with him. Women, hee. Li Changxing gently shook his head and looked at the ring on the first floor. At this time, the game had already begun. There were a total of 9 matches in this game to determine the ownership of the 9 pieces of land in Qingzhou. Qin Hao sent a Muay Thai expert on the field, and his fighting style was very tough. Muay Thai was known to be undefeated for 500 years. Although the training method was very cruel and squeezed out the potential of the body, and most people didn't live for long, there was no doubt that their fighting strength was very terrifying. On the other hand, the Chu family sent a Tai Chi expert. Unfortunately, one of the 3 major internal martial arts of Huaxia was practiced by him until it was soft. When he came up, he assumed the posture of a white crane spreading its wings. As a result, he was fiercely hit by the opponent's knee and fell down from the ring. Many people were so angry that they slapped their thighs. Chinese martial arts were so easily KO'd in front of their own home, and it really made people hate them for not fighting. Even Li Changxing couldn't stand it anymore. In the past, the Wudong sect's Tai Chi had produced many experts, but now they were so useless. Not only Li Changxing, but a middle-aged man who looked similar to Chu Yaotian 30 meters away was also so angry that he slammed his fist on the table. Needless to say, this was Chu Yaotian's son, Chu Ming's second uncle. Chu Xing. Is Taiji fist that bad? In front of Muay Thai, they are simply unable to withstand a single blow. The enchanting woman played with a dagger in her hand and looked at the bodyguard beside her, Green Shark. It's not that Taiji fist is bad. It's just that the guy the Chu clan sent out is too trash. Furthermore, this Muay Thai fighter is indeed very powerful. After Green Shark finished speaking, he looked at the arena with a hint of battle intent in his eyes. If you were to fight against that Muay Thai expert, who would be stronger? The enchanting woman continued asking. In terms of combat strength, I'm on par with him, but in terms of killing, he won't be able to last more than 10 moves against me. All right. The enchanting woman nodded. Sometimes, the outcome of a duel is not determined by the level of one's martial arts. There are many other factors, such as the right time, the right place, the right people, and the psychological quality of the combatants. Truly trash. On the other side, Chu Xing was furious. The few subordinates beside him were trembling with fear. This is the martial arts expert you invited for me? Chu Xing pointed at his subordinates and scolded. No wonder Chu Xing was angry. There were a total of 9 arena matches. Losing the first match so miserably, how could they continue? Second master, it's our negligence. Those subordinates didn't even dare to raise their heads. Chu Xing took a deep breath and calmed down a bit. Then he opened his mouth and said, "Immediately go and investigate the background of this Muay Thai expert." Indeed, although the Taiji fist expert invited by his subordinates was indeed somewhat trash, but he couldn't even take a single blow from the opponent. This showed that the main reason was that the opponent's strength was too strong. Looks like without Chu Yaotian taking charge of the situation, the Chu clan is completely unable to withstand a single blow. The middle-aged man, nicknamed Yang Six Fingers, laughed. He had long wanted to extend his influence to Qingzhou, but a strong dragon cannot suppress a snake in its own territory. He had never succeeded. This time, with Qin Hao relying on him and the Qin clan's influence, as long as he obtained victory in today's arena match, Qingzhou would truly become his. Next, the second match continued. This time, the one who went up was an external martial arts expert who practiced Taizu's long fist. He walked the path of strength, but in less than half a minute, he was hit in the chest by the opponent. He spat out blood and fell to the ground, unable to get up again. Chu Xing hurriedly had the medical staff carry him down. His face was also extremely gloomy. With 2 consecutive defeats, the Chu clan's morale had dropped to the bottom. Many of the big shots in Qingzhou also shook their head. Yang Ren wanting to extend his hand to Qingzhou made them very disgusted. Not to mention that Huaxia's martial arts couldn't even beat someone from a small barbarian country. It was really shameful. What kind of trash did the Chu clan send out? They really lost face for us Qingzhou people. A man couldn't help but complain. Chu Xing's face was even darker. At this time, it was time for the third match. Qin Hao's side still sent out this Muay Thai fighter, and the Chu clan's side didn't send anyone up for a full 10 minutes. It turned out that the remaining fighters were scared after seeing the opponent's fierce fighting style. They didn't dare to go up and die. This made Chu Xing so angry that his face turned purple. There was already a lot of discussion below. Losing 2 matches in a row already made many of the powers in Qingzhou angry. Now that they didn't even have the courage to fight, there were even people who directly started cursing. Filthy words. It was extremely chaotic. It's time for you to loosen up your muscles. At this time, Li Chongqing smiled at Peng Tiexin, who was beside him. At the same time, he waved his hand at a subordinate of the Chu clan not far away. That subordinate walked over a bit suspiciously. "Tell your boss to let my people go up for this match." The subordinate suspiciously looked at Peng Tiexin, who was beside Li Chongqing. Seeing that Peng Tiexin wasn't tall, thin and small, he couldn't see anything special about him. But seeing the chaotic scene and the cursing of many of the big shots in Qingzhou, he finally nodded his head and walked over to Chu Xing. Half a minute later, that subordinate walked back and said to Li Guangxing, "I'll ask the boss to invite you over." Li Chongqing nodded his head, stood up and walked over to Chu Xing. After walking a few meters, Lu Yao happened to be going to the washroom and met Li Chongqing halfway. Originally, Li Chongqing wanted to pretend that he didn't know her and leave, but Lu Yao suddenly opened her mouth and said, "You're also here to watch the fight?" Without a doubt, Lu Yao was indeed very beautiful. She had the grace and gentleness of a woman from the countryside. Normal men would find it hard to resist her charm. Li Chongqing's footsteps stopped and he shook his head. "I'm here to help a friend." "Part-time?" Lu Yao's eyes showed an expression of understanding. Especially the smile on her face, it almost instantly disappeared. Li Chongqing knew that she misunderstood his meaning, but he was too lazy to explain. He smiled and nodded his head. "You can say that. You're only in your first year and you're already working so hard. Coming out to earn your own tuition is really not easy. That day in class, I misunderstood you. Don't take it to heart." After a few words of unimportant courtesy, she walked towards the washroom while Li Chongqing walked over to Chu Xing. They each went their own way and didn't disturb each other. But thinking about the change in Lu Yao's expression before and after, Li Chongqing couldn't help but sigh. This son of a bitch is realistic. Chapter 86. Li Chongqing walked over. Chu Xing was in the middle of raging at his subordinates, and after seeing Li Chongqing, his eyes showed suspicion. "Who are you?" Li Chongqing didn't answer Chu Xing's question, but directly said, "You're Chu Meng's second uncle, right? I called you before I came. Let my subordinates fight this round. Those boxers of yours are too trashy." Li Chongqing's natural words made the fighters behind Chu Xing's face turn red. Even Chu Xing couldn't help but frown. This young man was too straightforward, and didn't care about other people's feelings. Especially when the other party inadvertently revealed a kind of high and mighty temperament which made him feel very uncomfortable. You have to know that this is a boxing competition, not a child's play. Before going up on stage, you have to sign a life and death contract. Chu Xing clearly didn't trust Li Chongqing. I know, your fighters don't dare to go up. My people are going up to help you save the situation. I'll give you 3 minutes to consider. If you're still hesitating, then you have to think of a way to solve today's matter. Chu Yaotian can be considered a character. As his son, you're too far away from your father, tiger father dog son. After speaking, Li Chongqing turned around and walked back to his seat. When the subordinates beside Chu Xing heard Li Chongqing talk about their boss like that, they were about to get angry, but were stopped by Chu Xing. Indeed, Chu Yaotian was captured by Qin Hao's people, and it was unknown whether he was dead or alive, and as his son, Chu Xing even lost all of Qingzhou's territory. What difference was there between him and those prodigal sons? On the way back, Li Chongqing saw Lu Yao pulling with a guy. It turned out that when Lu Yao came back from the bathroom, a rich young master who came to watch the boxing competition touched her butt, and Lu Yao slapped him back, causing trouble. One had to know that the people who came to watch the boxing competition weren't good people. That rich second generation saw that Lu Yao dared to hit him, and wanted to take Lu Yao to a hotel to torture her. At this time, Yang Xiaowei heard the commotion and rushed over. "Damn it, how dare you touch my woman!" Yang Xiaowei had practiced martial arts before, so his strength was not bad. Coupled with the fact that his father, Yang Qinggang, was present, he directly went up and gave the rich second generation a kick, causing the rich second generation to roll down the stairs. The fight here quickly attracted the attention of many people, but everyone looked like they were waiting to watch a good show. The rich second generation was kicked down the stairs by Yang Xiaowei. His face was bruised and his head was bleeding. He got up from the ground and shouted, "Just you wait." After that, she turned around and ran upstairs. Yang Xiaowei didn't stop him. He just crossed his arms in front of his chest. After hitting someone, he felt high-spirited. Especially after showing his heroic side in front of Lu Yao, he felt even more proud. Lu Yao, who was beside him, had already thrown herself into his arms. Her delicate body was moving up and down. Suddenly, a rich kid who knew Yang Xiaowei whispered to him, "Young Lord Yang, I think that man is the son of a big shot from Chuzhou City. I'm afraid he's not someone you can mess with." "I'm fine." Yang Xiaowei waved his hand casually. "My father works for Lord Qin. I don't care if he's from Chuzhou City or not. If his father dares to stand up for him, I will take care of his father as well." Just as he finished speaking, a fat man led a few of his subordinates over in a threatening manner. He walked up to Yang Xiaowei and slapped him without saying a word. "Pa." Her voice was clear and melodious, and it actually silenced the noisy crowd. Yang Xiaowei didn't expect that the fat man would dare to hit him. Knowing that he had practiced martial arts for a few days, he waved his hand and rushed toward the fat man. However, before he could get close, a middle-aged man behind the fat man kicked him and sent him flying. Even Qin Hao and the others were startled by the scene. Especially Yang Qinggang. When he saw his son being hit, his eyes turned red. He led a group of men and was about to fight the fat man. Suddenly, a cold voice came up. "The fat man is my man. Let's see who dares to touch him." Everyone looked up and saw a dignified middle-aged man walking toward them with Qin Hao. It was Yang Ren. Standing next to Yang Ren was Wang Dali, the brawny man from the Baji sect. He stood 2 heads taller than everyone else and gave everyone a strong sense of oppression. After seeing Yang Ren, Yang Qinggang quickly stopped his men and said, "Lord Yang, even if he is your man, he hit my son." Before he could finish his words, Qin Hao took a step forward and slapped Yang Qinggang across the face. Puh! The slap was crisp and loud. Your son doesn't have eyes, so you should discipline him well. Grandpa Yang has spoken, and you still dare to talk back. Are you trying to rebel? Hearing Qin Hao's words, Yang Qinggang opened his mouth but eventually lowered his head. He was just Qin Hao's dog, and he didn't dare to talk back to his master. Lord Yang, don't let such a small thing ruin your mood. Qin Hao smiled apologetically. Yang Ren nodded, and then they returned to their seats. At this time, Yang Xiaowei got up from the ground, but he didn't dare to speak after seeing such a scene. The rich second generation that he hit just now kicked Yang Xiaowei in the stomach, and Yang Xiaowei fell to the ground again. His father, Yang Qinggang, clenched his fist but didn't dare to speak. After all, his father was Yang Ren's man. Looking at the situation, Yang Xiaowei knew that he had offended someone he couldn't afford to offend. He quickly begged for mercy. Brother, I was wrong. I shouldn't have hit him. It's good that you know your mistake. The rich second generation sneered and pointed at Lu Yao. As an apology, let me play with your girlfriend for a night. This, Yang Xiaowei opened his mouth. Why not? No. Yang Xiaowei quickly waved his hand. Let's not talk about one night, I can play with her for a few nights. Hearing Yang Xiaowei's words, the rich second generation couldn't help but laugh proudly. Ha ha. After laughing, he directly reached out to grab Lu Yao's arm. Lu Yao was scared and tried to hide, but her path was blocked by the other party. What are you hiding for? You can sleep with him, but you can't sleep with me? Are you looking down on me? The other party sneered. Lu Yao's tears flowed down, and her body trembled in fear. Her pitiful appearance aroused the other party's bestial nature even more. The guy didn't even care that he was in front of everyone. He directly grabbed Lu Yao's arm, pulled her up, and kissed her in front of everyone. Let her go. At this time, a cold voice came from not far away. The rich second generation froze. Lu Yao, who was in despair, suddenly raised her head and saw a familiar figure slowly walking over. It's him. Chapter 87. Lu Yao was pleasantly surprised when she saw Li Changxing. At this moment, she was already in despair. Even Yang Xiaowei, who had promised her that no one in Qing province would dare to offend him, was obediently begging for mercy. She couldn't think of anyone who could save her. However, she never thought that at this critical moment, it would be Li Changxing who would step forward. Changxing, save me. Although Lu Yao didn't know if Li Changxing could really save her, she was like a drowning person who saw a life-saving straw at this moment. Regardless of whether the straw could help her get out of danger or not, she would still hold on to it. Where did this blind thing come from? How dare you meddle in my business? The rich second generation clearly saw Li Changxing's appearance, and disdain appeared in his eyes. You're the blind one. Li Changxing pointed at Lu Yao. Let her go. If you're a man, then come at me. Good boy, I think you're tired of living. With that, he waved his hand and several subordinates behind him surrounded Li Changxing. Li Changxing was too lazy to waste time with this kind of small fry. He directly lashed out with a high whip kick and knocked the subordinate who rushed up to him to the ground. Then, he dealt with the other two subordinates with a few punches and kicks. Then, he rushed to the rich second generation, grabbed him by the collar and threw him over his shoulder to the ground. At the same time, he stepped on his cheek and coldly said, Now, do I have the qualifications to meddle in other people's business? Everyone was stunned by Li Changxing's series of direct and efficient actions. After more than 10 seconds, the rich second generation's father, the fat middle-aged man, finally reacted and shouted, Let go of my son. Do you know who I am? I don't care who you are. Li Changxing exerted force with his foot and kicked the rich second generation's son until he fainted. Then, He rushed in front of the middle-aged man and neatly leaned against the mountain and slammed into the middle-aged man's body. His body, which weighed 100 kilograms, was knocked backward and hit the railing. When he fell to the ground, the entire second floor shook. The middle-aged man still wanted to struggle. Li Chongqing grabbed a wooden stool next to him and directly smashed it on his head. Gotcha! The stool, which was 10 centimeters thick, had a hole in it. At the same time, the fatty also fainted on the ground, his head bleeding profusely. For a moment, everyone who noticed the situation was dumbfounded. They didn't expect that the seemingly thin and weak Li Chongqing would actually erupt with such a powerful strength. It was even more exciting than the fight on the stage. At this time, the fat middle-aged man's subordinates reacted, but no one dared to rush up. They just went over to help the middle-aged man and the rich second generation up and ran to the hospital. At this moment, Yang Xiaowei also saw Li Chongqing's face clearly. He stammered, It's you. That's right, it's me. Li Chongqing smiled coldly at Yang Xiaowei. Yang Xiaowei was so scared that he almost peed his pants on the spot. He scrambled over to where Yang Qinggang was. He was really scared out of his wit. Since Li Chongqing dared to hit the rich second generation and the middle-aged man, he naturally dared to hit him. Just now, that stool caused the middle-aged fatty to bleed profusely. If he were to attack him, he would probably lose half of his life here. Li Chongqing didn't stop Yang Xiaowei. This kind of small fish, he could easily take care of it. He looked at Lu Yao. At this time, Lu Yao's expression was incomparably complicated. Yang Xiaowei was scared to the point of begging for mercy in front of the rich second generation and the middle-aged man. Even Yang Xiaowei's father didn't dare to say a word. Li Chongqing actually dared to attack these people. Regardless of Li Chongqing's background, just based on his character, he was 100 times, 1,000 times better than Yang Xiaowei. Just as Lu Yao's expression was complicated, Chu Xing personally walked over and smiled at Li Chongqing. Mr. Li, just now I shouldn't have doubted you. I agree to let your subordinates go up. Originally, in Chu Xing's eyes, Li Chongqing was just an ordinary youth. He looked ordinary and mediocre. But just now, Li Chongqing's attack fell into his eyes. His impression of Li Chongqing was very different. A ruthless and powerful youth. If someone were to say that he was just an ordinary person, Chu Xing definitely wouldn't believe it. Moreover, at this time, Chu Xing was riding a tiger and couldn't get off. The fighters he found were so scared that they didn't even dare to step onto the stage. He could only place his hopes on Li Chongqing. Okay. Li Chongqing nodded and then said to Lu Yao, "This place isn't suitable for a girl like you. In the future, you should try not to come to this kind of place. First come with me and sit over there. After the fight is over, I'll find someone to send you back." Okay. Lu Yao nodded and went with Li Chongqing to her previous seat. At this time, Zhang Xiaowei had already run to his father Yang Qinggang's side. "Dad, you must uphold justice for your son. That guy is Li Chongqing. A few days ago, he was the one who beat me up." Hearing his son's words, Yang Qinggang nodded. Just now, that fatty made him hold back a bellyful of anger. But because the other party was Yang Ren's people, he didn't dare to be presumptuous. Now that a youth actually dared to bully his son, of course he wouldn't let it go. Just as Yang Qinggang was about to bring a few of his men to find trouble with Li Chongqing, he was stopped by Qin Hao. "Wait a minute, don't act rashly. That youth is not ordinary." Just now, such a big commotion naturally attracted Qin Hao's attention. How could Qin Hao not recognize this fellow who had beaten up his son and then his nephew? However, he also knew that Li Chongqing was not someone to be trifled with. Even Zhou Xing, who had mastered internal force, was no match for Li Chongqing. If Yang Qinggang's subordinates were to go against him, they would only be delivering food to him. "Isn't it just a youth?" Yang Qinggang said indifferently. "A youth?" Qin Hao smiled and shook his head. Even my subordinate, Madman Su, is not a match for this youth. Do you think that your subordinates can deal with him? Hearing Qin Hao's words, Yang Qinggang was completely extinguished. He was very clear about Madman Su's strength. As Qin Hao's trusted general, there were not many people in Qingzhou who could beat Madman Su. He didn't expect this youth to be so powerful. Then, my son was beaten up for nothing? Yang Qinggang was still unwilling to give up. Of course not. He's Chu Yaotian's man. Originally, I wanted to find someone to deal with him after the arena. It just so happens that I'll deal with him together today. While speaking, he looked at Yang Ren who was beside him. Yang Ren smiled slightly. This is the youth that Chu Yaotian thinks highly of? His martial strength is not bad, but since he appeared here today, there's no need for him to leave alive. Hearing Yang Ren's words, Yang Qinggang and many of the big shots in Qingzhou were shocked. When these people were ruthless, they would at most break a few bones. Unless it was absolutely necessary, they would definitely not kill. However, in Yang Ren's words, killing a person was as casual as killing an ant. Chapter 88. Lu Yao tightly leaned against Li Changxing's side. At this moment, this youth that she didn't think highly of gave her a great sense of peace and warmth. She even thought, if she wasn't so resolute in class, maybe she and him could really have a romantic campus love. He was brave, responsible, and righteous. His only regret was that he wasn't a rich second generation, and his looks were a bit ordinary. Ignoring the complicated thoughts of the woman beside him, Li Changxing nodded at Peng Tiexin. Then, Peng Tiexin directly leaped up, stepped on the railing of the second floor, and directly landed on the arena like an arrow released from a bow. Because the strength was relatively large, the entire field felt a tremor under the ground. Yang Ren and the others originally thought that Chu Xing's side was empty, but when they saw someone come out, especially Peng Tiexin jumping down from the second floor, it was quite a shock. Falling from such a high height without a scratch, this in itself was a manifestation of strength. Chu Xing saw Peng Tiexin's action, and his originally nervous heart relaxed a little. Regardless of whether or not the opponent could win against that Muay Thai expert, at the very least, he was much stronger than the few good-for-nothings his subordinates had hired. Peng Tiexin landed on the ring, and made a provocative gesture toward that Muay Thai master. Immediately, all the noise in the audience quieted down, and everyone stared at the ring. That Muay Thai master's pupils shrank, and at the same time showed a bit of anger. He directly took a step forward and sent out a fierce elbow strike. Muay Thai's elbows and knees were the most powerful attack. Especially after seeing Peng Tiexin's strength, this punch could be said to be his strongest attack. However, the opponent was only a person who practiced Ming Jing to the extreme. Although the extreme Ming Jing could also defeat a dark Jing master, Peng Tiexin was already one with the inside and outside, reaching the Grandmaster realm, so the result was destined to be a tragedy. Just as the Muay Thai master's elbow strike whistled through the air, Peng Tiexin just lightly turned his feet, and then raised his fist to meet it head-on, without any intention to defend. Bang! The elbow and fist directly collided in the air. The Muay Thai master, who had been successful since the beginning, retreated 3 steps back. As soon as the other party stopped, Peng Tiexin took a big stride forward and pounced on him again. At the same time, a similarly swift and fierce elbow strike smashed towards the Muay Thai fighter's chest. Giving him a taste of his own medicine, his strength was extremely ferocious, smashing down almost in the blink of an eye. That Muay Thai fighter didn't even have the time to put up any defense. His chest was struck, and with a "kacha" sound, his entire body flew out, slamming into the pillar of the ring before bouncing back. At the same time, Peng Tiexin turned around and swung his leg, directly stepping on his opponent's throat and pushing him back against the pillar of the ring. No matter how hard his opponent struggled, he could not break free from the strength of his leg. In less than 10 seconds, the Muay Thai fighter was taken down. The Muay Thai fighter continued to struggle under Peng Tiexin's foot. Only when his face started to turn purple and his eyes started to roll back did Peng Tiexin retract his leg. His opponent fell limply onto the arena, breathing heavily with his mouth open. A part of his chest had sunk in. Seeing this scene, many people sucked in a mouthful of cold air. Just how powerful was that strike? Perhaps that Muay Thai fighter had broken 5 or 6 ribs. For a moment, everyone's eyes were filled with shock. That thin and small body was incomparably tall in everyone's eyes, giving off a powerful deterrent force. Even those who didn't understand martial arts could see that this lean man's martial strength had reached a very high level. He's very powerful. If you and him fought, who would be more powerful? Lu Yao subconsciously looked at Li Chongqing. Because when Li Chongqing made his move, he gave her the same kind of fierce feeling. Moreover, that lean man and Li Chongqing had the same unprepossessing appearance, and the same kind of shocking people with a single brilliant feat. Of course, I'm more powerful. Moreover, he won't fight with me because he doesn't dare. Li Chongqing's indifferent words made Lu Yao dumbstruck. She thought that Li Chongqing would at least evaluate and compare the strengths and weaknesses of both sides. She didn't expect Li Chongqing to say such words. Doesn't dare? Isn't he just an ordinary student? Lu Yao looked at the man beside her and suddenly realized that he had a kind of temperament that she couldn't see through. Especially when she noticed that Li Chongqing's clothes seemed to be a little different today. This person's strength is so terrifying. Even Yang Ren and the others' expressions changed. I'm afraid there's going to be a flaw in today's plan. Beside them, Qin Hao's expression was also extremely solemn. Yang Ren looked at Qin Hao and said, I didn't notice where this guy came from. It seems that we still underestimated the Chu family. Could it be that Chu Xing invited an expert from the northwest? This Chu Xing hasn't been developing in Qingzhou, so we don't know much about him. Qin Hao said in a deep voice. Master Qin, I'll go and investigate. Madman Su said. Beside him, Yang Ren waved his hand and said, It's too late to investigate now. Our plan to dominate Qingzhou must not fail. As he spoke, he looked at the sturdy Wang Dali beside him. You're up. Wang Dali nodded his head, but his eyes were filled with fear. He had always been very confident in his own strength, but he had no confidence in facing Peng Tiexin. If it weren't for the fact that today's fight was related to his master's plan to take over Qingzhou, he might not have chosen to go up. The enchanting woman stared at Li Chongqing's position. She was one of the few people present who knew that Peng Tiexin was Li Chongqing's subordinate. At the same time, she finally knew where the sense of crisis in her heart came from. If you were to fight against him, what are your chances of winning? The enchanting woman looked at the bodyguard beside her, Green Shark. Green Shark frowned and said, In terms of martial arts, I'm not as good as him. In terms of killing, I'm still not his opponent. As soon as Green Shark finished speaking, the enchanting woman's expression changed greatly. On the other side, the middle-aged man who had spoken to educate Li Chongqing was also tightly holding the 2 walnuts in his hands. His expression was constantly changing, and in the end, he let out a long sigh. I made a mistake. At this moment, Wang Dali, who was full of explosive muscles, had already walked into the ring. However, he didn't rush to attack. Instead, he took a defensive posture and stared at Peng Tiexin. Although he was arrogant, he was very self-aware. If he wanted to defeat that Muay Thai fighter, he would need to put in a lot of effort. However, Peng Tiexin only used less than 3 moves. This was too terrifying. What's your name? Why do you want to get involved in this mess? Wang Dali asked in a low, muffled voice. His nervous eyes showed that he was guilty at the moment. However, Peng Tiexin didn't pay attention to him at all. Instead, he looked at the second floor. He asked, Sir, do you want to end him? Everyone present wanted to see who Peng Tiexin's sir was. Countless gazes followed Peng Tiexin's line of sight and fell on the second floor. There sat a young man with an indifferent expression. Beside him was Lu Yao, whose face was filled with shock. Chapter 89. It's good that he's crippled, Li Chongqing said indifferently. The doubtful gazes of the crowd turned into shock. It's really that ordinary young man. Qin Hao and his son's eyes were wide open. The lean guy who came out halfway turned out to be Li Chongqing's subordinate, especially Qin Yi's face was extremely ugly. He had suffered many losses under Li Chongqing's hands. Now, a shadow was forming in his heart. Yang Xiaowei and Yang Qinggang were also completely dumbfounded. No wonder Qin Hao told them not to act rashly. Yang Qinggang thought about it and felt a lingering fear. With the terrifying skills of that guy in the arena, Yang Qinggang's own subordinates would only be delivering food to him. He glared fiercely at his son, Yang Xiaowei, and complained in his heart about what kind of terrifying person this prodigal son had provoked. Now, he could only pray in his heart that Wang Dali, with his strong body, could finish off this skinny guy in the arena. Otherwise, if he offended such an enemy, his days in Qingzhou would not be easy. Lu Yao was the most shocked. Looking at the indifferent young man in front of her, her heart was as complicated as it could be. Originally, she thought that he was just an ordinary student. Originally, she thought that even though he was strong, his family did not have money and could not give her the life she wanted. However, at this moment she suddenly realized how wrong she was. To have such a powerful subordinate and to be able to participate in a game of chess in this gathering of big shots, his identity was at least several levels higher than Yang Xiaowei, who she had chosen. At this moment Peng Tiexin, who had received the order, took a step forward and attacked Wang Dali. His body was like a dragon, and his power was like thunder. When Peng Tiexin attacked, his fist emitted a thunderous sound, and his speed was extremely fast. Wang Dali, who was defending with all his strength, raised his fist to block, but he realized that what he blocked was only an afterimage. His face was filled with shock, but it was already too late. That punch landed solidly on his chest. The 2-meter-tall man was directly sent flying, and he spat out blood as he fell off the arena. One punch, just one punch, and Peng Tiexin seriously injured the number 1 expert under Yang Ren. Yang Ren, who had been incomparably indifferent since the beginning, suddenly stood up, and his subordinates behind him also revealed a look of shock. No one knew Wang Dali's strength better than they did. Initially, Yang Ren had seen that Peng Tiexin was very strong, but he had always thought that even if Wang Dali was not as strong as Peng Tiexin, he would at least be able to escape unscathed. However, he had never expected such an outcome. Not bad. He doesn't hold back when he fights, and he doesn't fight when he holds back. This Peng Tiexin is a good seedling, Li Chongqing commented. He turned around and smiled at Lu Yao, who had a complicated expression on her face. Her beautiful face was filled with fear, nervousness, and vexation. What? Is this your first time watching such a competition? Are you not used to it? They all say that this kind of place is not suitable for you girls. Lu Yao nodded subconsciously and looked at Li Chongqing with fear in her eyes. Unknowingly, Li Chongqing's image had changed from an ordinary kid to a mysterious one. If you can't accept such a bloody scene, you should leave first. I believe that after this competition, no one will dare to make a move on you halfway. Hearing Li Chongqing's words, Lu Yao nodded subconsciously again. However, when she stood up, she suddenly regretted it. He's young and rich, has a strong background, is capable, and has a good impression of me. Isn't this the other half that I've been looking for? Although the boyfriend I found last time, Ma Yang, comes from a rich family, he's too fickle. Ever since he cheated me of my first time, he hasn't contacted me for a week. Li Chongqing has stood up for me twice. He shouldn't be able to reject me. Why don't I take this opportunity to improve my relationship with him? Thinking of this, Lu Yao said weakly, I'm scared. Can you send me back later? She looked at Li Chongqing with hope. In her opinion, as long as it was a normal man, he wouldn't be able to reject the request of a delicate beauty like her. However, to her surprise, Li Chongqing shook his head. No, first of all, I have something to do. Second, I saved you just now because it's what every man with a sense of justice should do. As for sending you home, I'm not your boyfriend and have no obligation to do so. Li Chongqing's voice was calm, but it was also filled with coldness. This reminded Lu Yao of the scene in class when she shook her head and said that she didn't know Li Chongqing. Perhaps Li Chongqing's feelings at that time were the same as hers now. He's taking revenge on me. Lu Yao bit her lips and was about to cry. However, Li Chongqing had already turned his gaze to the ring, as if he had forgotten about her existence. Lu Yao gritted her teeth and finally asked again, You're really not sending me back? If you don't send me back, don't expect me to talk to you in the future. After Lu Yao finished speaking, she turned around and walked out, with a hint of anger. However, after she walked a few dozen meters, she quietly looked back and found that Li Chongqing didn't even look at her. At this moment, a huge sense of loss suddenly emerged in her heart. Does he really not care about me? Or did he already give up on me last time in class? Lu Yao suddenly began to regret. Why did she have to leave? If she had sat down and softly begged him just now, he might have changed his mind. In the end, Lu Yao walked out of the stadium. Due to her arrogant self-esteem, she couldn't bow her head to Li Chongqing. Seeing Lu Yao leave, Li Chongqing just raised the corner of his mouth. This kind of woman, although she had a beautiful appearance, her heart was filled with utilitarianism and vanity. If he hadn't seen her decisiveness in class, if he hadn't seen how obedient she was when she was in Yang Xiaowei's arms, if he hadn't seen the change in her expression when she thought he was a part-time waiter, Li Chongqing might have really thought she was a kind-hearted woman and would have been bewitched by her beautiful appearance. Unfortunately, there weren't so many ifs. The world was cold and people's hearts were like dogs. For such a woman, saving her twice was already extremely benevolent. How could she be worthy of entering his inner world? Li Chongqing shook his head. At this moment, a figure suddenly walked out from the crowd. It was a young man who looked to be around 27 or 28 years old. He had an evil smile on his face, giving people the first impression that he was a demon. Like a demon knife, evil and awe-inspiring, showing off its sharpness. After the young man appeared, he slowly walked up the ring. The moment he appeared, Chu Xing, who had already revealed a happy expression, instantly froze, and then his face changed drastically. On the other hand, Yang Ren's side breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately, he came. Yang Ren sat on the chair as if relieved of a burden. Chapter 90. A man could actually give off a demonic feeling, but it was different from a female succubus. It was a very evil feeling. With the appearance of this man, the arena suddenly fell into silence. Even Peng Tiexin's face showed a dignified expression. Nalen Yuding, a name that no one in the entire Northwest dared to underestimate. Not only because he once set a record of destroying a group of people, but also because of his master, the sick tiger Qi Yu. He and Su Xiaolin were known as the two great figures in the north. I didn't expect Yang Ren to invite him here. On the other side, Chu Xing sat on a chair in a daze. The joy that came from Peng Tiexin defeating Wang Dali had already vanished. If the Chu family was said to be a feudal lord in Qingzhou, then the sickly tiger Qi Yu was the emperor that all 800 feudal lords had to worship. Nalen Yuding appeared and looked at the bosses on the second floor. He said faintly, I owe Chu Yaotian a favor. I'm here today to return the favor. From now on, Qingzhou will follow Boss Yang's lead. If the Chu family is willing to voluntarily withdraw, I can guarantee that Chu Yaotian's life will not be in danger. After Nalen Yuding's words, Chu Xing sighed and stood up. He was about to nod. At this time, Peng Tiexin in the arena said, "Nailin Yuding, did you get your master's approval for what you did today?" "You are?" Nailin Yuding frowned. Peng Tiexin followed Su Xiaolin later, so not many people knew him. Unlike Nailin Yuding, who was one of the 3 generals under Qi Yu, everyone in Huaxia knew about it. "You don't need to know who I am. You just need to tell me, are your actions today instructed by your master, or are you acting on your own? For the sake of your master, I advise you not to get involved in this muddy water today. Otherwise, you can't afford the consequences." Hearing Peng Tiexin's words, Nailin Yuding smiled and shook his head. "In the north, there is no muddy water that I, Nailin Yuding, can't get involved in." With that, he took a step forward and his body turned into a shadow. He attacked Peng Tiexin without saying anything. Peng Tiexin also took a step forward and raised his arm to block. But there was a dull sound. Peng Tiexin, who had already reached the master realm, was actually forced back 3 steps by the punch. At this moment, many people revealed looks of shock. Everyone had witnessed Peng Tiexin's strength just now. Who would have thought that he would not be able to withstand a single move from this youth? Sick Tiger Qi Yu's 3 generals. Nailin Yuding really deserved her reputation. "Thank you for your help, Mr. Nailin." Yang Ren stood up and cupped his hands, unable to suppress the joy on his face. In his opinion, the overall situation was set. Peng Tiexin was not Nailin Yuding's opponent. Over on Chu Xing's side, even if he had several guts, he also did not dare to oppose Nailin Yuding. Today's plan could already come to a perfect end. If it weren't for the fact that they weren't sure whether Nailin Yuding would appear or not, there wouldn't be a need for the challenge tournament at all. As long as Nailin Yuding, this great Buddha, sat there, the Chu family would have to obediently submit. Master Yang actually managed to invite Nailin Yuding. "It's really amazing," Qin Hao said with a flattering expression. At the same time, his mood was complicated. Originally, Qin Hao was still a little unwilling to cooperate with Yang Ren and become Yang Ren's subordinate, but after seeing Nailin Yuding appear, he knew that he had done the right thing. Peng Tiexin, who was knocked back by a punch, waved his fist and took the initiative to rush towards Nailin Yuding. However, his fist hit an afterimage. Nailin Yuding appeared behind him like a ghost and punched him in the back. In the end, under everyone's horrified eyes, Peng Tiexin was beaten down the ring. After a few minutes, he barely stood up, with a trace of blood overflowing from the corner of his mouth. In the world of martial arts, only speed is invincible. Li Changxing muttered to himself. Nailin Yuding and Peng Tiexin's martial arts realm were both in the Grandmaster realm, but their real combat effectiveness was much stronger than Peng Tiexin's because Nailin Yuding's martial arts were extremely fast. "No wonder Qi Yu thinks highly of you. You really have some skills." Li Changxing nodded. At this time, Nailin Yuding had already turned around to walk down the ring and leave. In his opinion, his appearance was already equivalent to setting the overall situation. The Chu family had no other choice but to obediently give up the Qingzhou territory. "Wait a minute." Just as he was about to walk down the ring, a voice sounded. Nailin Yuding looked up and saw a young face. "You injured my subordinate and turned around to leave like this. Did you ask for my permission?" Hearing Li Changxing's words, everyone in the audience was surprised. Not to mention Nailin Yuding's powerful background, just based on his combat effectiveness, even someone as powerful as Peng Tiexin was no match for him. Although everyone knew that Li Changxing was Peng Tiexin's master, it didn't mean that he could fight. Could it be that he wants to use his background to suppress the other party? After all, to have such a powerful subordinate, his background must be extraordinary. But no matter how powerful his background is, can it be stronger than the sick tiger behind Nailin Yuding, Qi Yu? Chu Xing couldn't help but frown. This guy that his niece found was too daring. He actually dared to provoke Nailin Yuding. "What, you want to fight me?" Nalan Yuding curled his lips, with some disdain in his eyes. He was arrogant because he had the right to be arrogant. Looking at the entire North, how many people could he put in his eyes? I don't want to fight you. I just want you to kneel down and apologize for your actions just now. Li Chongqing's domineering words silenced the audience. For the first time, Nalan Yuding's face showed a surprised expression. He couldn't help but size up Li Chongqing again, and finally shook his head. There are many people who provoke me, and in the end, without exception, they all died miserably. Originally, I didn't want to be stained with blood today, but my, Nalan Yuding's, name cannot be insulted. Today, you are very honored and very unfortunate, because you will be the only person to die in my hands in these 3 years. Just as the killing intent in Nalan Yuding's eyes grew thicker, Li Chongqing had already leaped out and jumped down from the second floor. He poured his strength into his heel and directly bombarded Nalan Yuding's body. The sudden attack caught everyone off guard, but Nalan Yuding's face showed a sneer. He had always been very confident in his speed, so when Li Chongqing was less than a meter away from him, he chose to move to the side. Boom! Just as Nalan Yuding dodged sideways, Li Chongqing's body seemed to be pulled by some kind of force and changed direction directly. Almost at the moment Nalan Yuding's body appeared, he smashed over. At this time, Nalan Yuding's face also showed a look of horror. He had never heard of anyone who could change direction in the air without borrowing force, but it was too late for him to dodge at this time. The powerful foot kicked directly on Nalan Yuding's chest. Gotcha! Nalan Yuding flew out directly and fell out of the ring, smashing just 3 steps in front of Peng Tiexin. One move, from Li Chongqing's attack to knocking down Nalan Yuding, it only took one move, and the whole process was less than 2 seconds. At this moment, the audience was silent, and everyone's face had a look of shock. No one thought that this seemingly ordinary young man would be so thunderous as soon as he made a move. Over there, Chu Xing, Qin Hao, Yang Ren, and the others were all dumbfounded. Only at this moment did everyone understand that this seemingly inconspicuous young man was the most terrifying character. His martial strength had reached a point far beyond their imagination. Chapter 91. Nalan Yuding fell under the ring and struggled to get up. He looked at the figure in the ring with fear. There were many hidden dragons and crouching tigers in Huaxia. Just in the north, there were many who could beat Nalan Yuding. But those who could seriously injure Nalan Yuding with one move were definitely no more than a slap. And that slap was almost all famous big shots in the world, not including this unattractive young man in front of him. Li Chongqing put his hands on the ropes of the ring and looked calmly at the seriously injured Nalan Yuding. He said, "You hurt my subordinate just now. Now I'll give you 2 choices, apologize to him or I'll break one of your legs." His voice was condescending. Such a tone shouldn't have appeared in Li Chongqing's age. After Nalan Yuding's expression changed several times, he shook his head. "Impossible. A warrior can be killed but not humiliated. And I'm Qi Yu's man. I don't believe you really dare to do anything to me." After Nalan Yuding's words, Li Chongqing didn't have time to speak. Chu Xing on the second floor shouted, "Mr. Li, Qi Yu is the tiger of the north. You can't be impulsive." However, Li Chongqing didn't answer Chu Xing's words at all. He just shook his head gently. Then he suddenly held the ropes of the ring and jumped down from above. Under the horrified eyes of everyone, he suddenly kicked out and hit Nalan Yuding's left leg. Crack! A crisp sound. The audience was in an uproar. Too decisive, too straightforward, and too unscrupulous. Ah! Even someone as strong as Nalan Yuding couldn't help but let out a scream. Beads of sweat flowed down from his head. On his left calf, a section of snow-white bone had pierced through his skin and was exposed. Straightforward, strange, and terrifying. Li Chongqing's brazen attack made everyone in the field unable to react. After more than 30 seconds, Several of Nalan Yuding's subordinates rushed up. However, when the first guy who didn't fear death was punched in the chest by Li Chongqing and flew out, this group of guys who were usually known for being fierce and fearless finally stopped. It was one thing to be hot-blooded and risk one's life, but it was another to throw away one's life. Wolves were the most ferocious animals, but in the face of a ferocious tiger that could crush them, they would also flee. Animals and humans were essentially the same. Li Chongqing clapped his hands as if he had done something insignificant. Then, he slowly walked to his seat on the second floor and sat down. Peng Tiexin glanced at Nalan Yuding, who was still lying on the ground and covering her calf. He shook his head sympathetically, and then followed behind Li Chongqing. Chu Xing finally couldn't help but walk over. Looking at the youth in front of him that he couldn't see through, he loudly said, "Li Chongqing, do you know what you're doing?" Li Chongqing was recommended to him by his niece Chu Meng. At first, he didn't take Li Chongqing seriously. It was only when Li Chongqing helped him defeat Wang Dali that he understood the importance of this youth in front of him. But now, he regretted it to the extreme because he would rather give up the territory of Qingzhou in exchange for his father's life than offend that sick tiger. Isn't it just a leg? If he wasn't Qi Yu's subordinate, he would already be dead. Li Chongqing said indifferently. There wasn't the slightest bit of arrogance in his tone. Everything was as it should be. Perhaps to others, Qi Yu was an unattainable mountain, but in Li Chongqing's eyes, he was just a subordinate that followed him in the past. Li Chongqing, you are indeed very strong. Nalan Yuding isn't your opponent. Your martial strength can be ranked in the top 30, but no matter how strong you are, what's the use? Nalan Yuding's backer is the sick tiger Qi Yu. Do you know what kind of disaster breaking his leg will bring? The sick tiger Qi Yu and Su Xiaolin are listed as the two mountains of the north. They are people who control the entire north. If you offend him, isn't that the same as seeking your own death? Not to mention you, even my Chu family will be implicated by you. Originally, the biggest price to pay for this fight was to lose the territory of Qingzhou, but now it's very likely that the lives of my Chu family will be lost. Chu Xing was so angry that he stomped his feet. If it wasn't for the youth's shocking battle strength, he would have slapped him twice on the spot. I'll take it all on my own. Li Chongqing raised his head and leaned back on the chair behind him. His lazy appearance made Chu Xing angry, but he didn't know where to vent. Can you take it all on your own? Chu Xing had a stomach full of anger that had nowhere to vent. His face was filled with despair and dejection. In the end, he let out a long sigh and walked back to his seat. Now that the situation had developed to this point, Chu Xing felt powerless. On the other side, Yang Ren hurriedly ordered people to bandage Nalan Yuding's injuries. Qin Hao, Yang Qinggang, and the others all revealed gloating smiles. Daring to break one of Nalan Yuding's legs, the big tiger in the north would be furious. In the north, other than Su Xiaolin, who could fight the sick tiger Qi Yu? Moreover, there had always been rumors that Su Xiaolin and the sick tiger Qi Yu had an unusual relationship. Unless this kid was Su Xiaolin's own son, Su Xiaolin would definitely not go against Qi Yu. And this possibility was very small because Su Xiaolin didn't have a son, only a daughter. Once Qi Yu got angry, Li Chongqing and the Chu family would definitely be faced with a death trap. In the end, the true winner of today's fight was still Qin Hao's side. Li Chongqing sat there leisurely from beginning to end. He didn't realize that his actions were equivalent to poking a hole in the sky. Sitting not far from Li Chongqing, the enchanting woman looked at Li Chongqing, who didn't know the immensity of heaven and earth, and sneered. Let's see how you die this time. It was said that there was no hatred for no reason, and the enchanting woman just didn't like Li Chongqing. Yang Xiaowei, who was bruised and swollen, and Qin Yi and Qin Xian, who were beaten up by Li Chongqing, were also excited and clenched their fists. Li Chongqing's move really made the relatives hurt and the enemies happy. Hula! There was a commotion on the first floor, and the crowd was pushed open. A group of sturdy men in black suits opened up a path in the crowd. Then, a middle-aged man in a suit walked in with a group of bodyguards in black suits surrounding him. His aura was monstrous. When the other party appeared, he instantly attracted the attention of the audience. Many big shots of Qingzhou, including Yang Ren, Qin Hao, and the others, all stood up, their faces showing awe. Chu Xing's face was instantly pale, without any color, and his body began to tremble. The middle-aged man took the lead and walked to the second floor. Qin Hao, Yang Ren, and the others hurried to greet him, but were rudely pushed away by his bodyguards. The two didn't dare to show the slightest dissatisfaction on their faces, but stood to the side in fear. Because this man was one of the two big mountains in the north, the big boss of the Su group, Su Xiaolin, who was as famous as the sick tiger Qiyu. Chapter 92. At this moment, Chu Xing was already in despair. There was news a long time ago that Su Xiaolin and the sick tiger Qiyu of the two mountains in the north had an unusual relationship. Although it had never been confirmed, the two big shots had never denied it. Su Xiaolin appeared at this moment. Was it because of Nalen Yuding? He didn't expect to alarm this big shot. The misfortune came too suddenly. Su Xiaolin, the head of the Su group in the north. The title of a business emperor wasn't enough to scare the people present. The real fear came from the series of big things he had done. His methods were like thunder. There were very few people in the world who could compare to him. Although Chu Xing didn't know why this big shot, who made countless people in the north tremble in fear, would appear here so quickly, the despair in his heart had already made him fall into a bottomless abyss. He subconsciously looked at the young man who caused this disaster. That guy named Li Chongqing didn't seem to be nervous at all. In particular, there was a faintly discernible smile at the corner of his mouth. This made Chu Xing somewhat unable to react. He didn't understand why this guy was so calm. He didn't understand. Because in his eyes, no matter how powerful Li Chongqing was, he was just a classmate that his niece found. Perhaps he was very powerful, but he had never heard of such a person in the Jianghu. Not only did he not understand, the enchanting woman who had been paying attention to Li Chongqing also didn't understand. She felt that this guy who had always been unpleasant to her eyes couldn't be compared to Su Xiaolin except for his terrifying martial strength. And the group of Qingzhou big shots didn't have time to care about Li Chongqing. In their minds, the other party should have been trembling in fear long ago. Their eyes were completely attracted by Su Xiaolin. The northern business emperor Su Xiaolin was a legendary figure in the Jianghu. How could they have the chance to see him normally? Su Xiaolin, who walked up to the second floor, scanned the crowd. Then he easily saw Li Chongqing sitting there. He strode towards Li Chongqing's location. Chu Xing's heart suddenly jumped. Su Xiaolin's goal was so clear. He really came for revenge for Nalen Yuding. Qingzhou, including Qin Hao and the others, already revealed expressions of schadenfreude, as if they could already see the end of this reckless brat. Over there, Nalen Yuding, who was bandaged and in pain, wanted to stand up and say hello to this person who was as famous as her boss, but she was completely shocked by the next scene. This was because this man, who was known as one of the two mountains in the north, did not fly into a rage as everyone expected when he walked in front of Li Chongqing. Instead, he revealed a cautious expression and called out in a very respectful tone, "Sir." The young man nodded slightly, picked up an apple from the table, and looked at Su Xiaolin. "This apple is not bad. Do you want one?" At that moment, Su Xiaolin revealed a flattered expression and respectfully took the apple. Such a scene made everyone feel as if they were shrouded in mist. At the same time, the shock in their hearts made them feel suffocated. This was especially true for Qin Hao, Yang Ren, and the others. It was as if they were struck by lightning on a sunny day. They were completely stupefied. Li Chongqing looked at Su Xiaolin, who was holding the apple carefully. He laughed and scolded, "What? Are you going to go back and light 3 incense sticks? As he spoke, he shook his head and took out a cigarette. Su Xiaolin hurriedly bent forward and took out a lighter to help light it. Boy, what are you doing? This person must not be Su Xiaolin. Otherwise, how could the big boss of Su Group light your cigarette? What trick do you want to play? The enchanting woman, who was sitting not far from Li Chongqing, seemed to have figured out something and suddenly shouted loudly. However, Li Chongqing did not bother to look at her at all. He just silently exhaled a mouthful of smoke. Behind him, Peng Tiexin fiercely looked at the enchanting woman. How powerful was Peng Tiexin? With just a glance, the enchanting woman was alerted and lowered her head in fear. However, she seemed to realize her gaffe. She immediately straightened her body and shouted, "Who do you think you are? You just rely on your powerful subordinate. I am a member of the Xie family in Jiangnan. Xie, the daughter of the Xie family in Jiangnan. This time, I came to the north on behalf of the Xie family to discuss a business deal. I heard that there was a boxing match here, so I came to join in the fun." The Xie family in Jiangnan was also a well-known family in China. Therefore, Xie was very arrogant. Today, she was frustrated by Li Chongqing again and again, making her feel suffocated. Although she knew in her heart that it was very irrational to stand out and question Li Chongqing, women had always been creatures dominated by their emotions. Somehow, she still said such words. Li Chongqing did not speak, but it did not mean that Su Xiaolin had the same good temper. He coldly turned around and pointed at Xie's nose and cursed, "Bitch, is the Xie family in Jiangnan very powerful? Do you believe that I won't make you bankrupt tomorrow and sell you to a brothel to be a real prostitute?" Xie was completely stunned in an instant. Since childhood, no one dared to point at her nose and curse her. However, Su Xiaolin's imposing manner scared her so much that she did not dare to open her mouth. Because in Su Xiaolin's cold eyes, she felt that his aura was even stronger than that of her father, who was the head of the family. Together with the group of bodyguards behind Su Xiaolin, all of them reminded her that the man in front of her was not a fake. "What do you mean, surnamed Li?" Xie did not dare to challenge Su Xiaolin, but she dared to question Li Chongqing. Because she subconsciously thought that Li Chongqing's ordinary face was much less of a threat than Su Xiaolin. "What do I mean? Can't you see? Women are really stupid animals." Li Chongqing shook his head and instructed Su Xiaolin, "This woman is too blind. Remember to help me sell her as far away as possible. It would be best if she could be sold to Africa. She's more suitable there." In an instant, Xie's body stiffened. Some intuition told her that the other party might not be joking and would really do it. A fiendish executioner was indeed terrifying, but a person with an honest face who could still talk and laugh after killing someone was the real terror. Li Chongqing was no doubt such a person. It was as if a basin of cold water was poured over her head. At this moment, she finally realized that the young man in front of her was not as simple and honest as he looked. Not only did he have a heaven-defying combat strength, but he also had a background that she could not contend with. Her face was pale as she clenched her fists. If her foolish words brought disaster to the Xie family, the consequences would be unimaginable. Sold to Africa, Xie could not help but feel her scalp tingle. She stood there and was about to cry. Chapter 93. Even Su Xiaolin had to respectfully address him as Sir. Chu Xing didn't react until more than 10 minutes later. He looked at the young figure still sitting in the distance, wondering how his niece Chu Meng knew such a powerful person. However, his heart was filled with excitement and joy at this moment. Qingzhou didn't need to be lost. The Chu family was safe. Based on the name Su Xiaolin, everything had been settled. Su Xiaolin and his murderous subordinates stood respectfully in a row behind Li Chongqing, while Li Chongqing just smoked silently. Beside him was a group of pale faces. On the other side, Yang Ren, Qin Hao, and Yang Qinggang were surrounded by fear. Big boss. Peng Tiexin stepped forward and whispered something to Su Xiaolin, then pointed to Nalan Yuding's position. Nalan Yuding's joy had turned into a bitter smile. Just as she was about to say something, Su Xiaolin spoke first. You offended Sir just now. Nalan Yuding reacted and nodded. Boss Su, I owe Yang Ren a favor. Today, I'm here to repay the favor. I didn't expect the flood to rush to the Dragon King's temple. I hope Boss Su will let me go for the sake of my boss Qi, okay? Su Xiaolin nodded. I'll spare your life for Qi Yu's sake. Men, break his other leg for me. What? Nalan Yuding originally heaved a sigh of relief, but when she heard Su Xiaolin's words, she was dumbfounded. Boss Su, with your friendship with my boss. Don't you think you're talking a lot of nonsense? Su Xiaolin interrupted coldly. At the same time, he grabbed a stool next to him and threw it down from the second floor. Whoosh! The stool made a sonic boom in the air. Qi Yu wanted to dodge, but his other leg was already smashed. Crack! Nalan Yuding fell to the ground, and his other leg was instantly smashed. Immediately, everyone present sucked in a breath of cold air. As expected of the famous Su Xiaolin in the north, he was indeed ruthless. On the other hand, Yang Ren, Qin Hao, and the others were so scared that their legs turned to jelly. Qin Hao and his son actually dared to kidnap Chu Yaotian and plot against me many times. There's no point in keeping them alive. Just kill them. Li Chongqing neither praised nor criticized Su Xiaolin's actions. He only looked at Qin Hao and his son and said, "Spare me." Qin Hao was so scared that his legs went soft. A big shot of Qingzhou was actually kneeling on the ground to beg Li Chongqing and Su Xiaolin for mercy. Mr. Li, Mr. Su, I was wrong. You can ask me to do anything, but please don't kill me. I'll get someone to release Chu Yaotian immediately. He's in the Qin family's villa. What are you waiting for? Li Chongqing was indifferent to the other party's pleading. Su Xiaolin took a step forward. You forced me to do this. Qin Hao suddenly raised his head, his eyes revealing a vicious expression. He didn't know when a pistol had been quietly loaded, and he was about to pull the trigger at Su Xiaolin. However, at the critical moment, an object flew out of Su Xiaolin's hand and hit Qin Hao's hand directly, and the pistol flew out. At the same time, Su Xiaolin stepped out and instantly came to Qin Hao's side, and he slapped Qin Hao's head. Snap! Gotcha! The sound of bones breaking. Qin Hao's 7 orifices were bleeding, and he fell to the ground softly. His eyes were wide open, and there was madness and disbelief in his eyes. No one thought that Su Xiaolin, the boss of the Su group in the north, was a powerful martial arts master. For so many years, he had never made a move, but today, he personally made a move twice. This time, all the people who had doubted Su Xiaolin's identity dispelled the idea. Such skill, such a domineering aura, who else could it be but Su Tianwang? Seeing that Qin Hao was killed, Qin Yi and Qin Xian were so scared that they fell to the ground like dead dogs. Yellow and white things flowed out from the center of their thighs, and there was a stench. This time, without waiting for Li Chongqing's order, Su Xiaolin directly covered his nose in disgust, and said to his men, "Chop these 2 into 8 pieces for me and throw them into the river to feed the fish." As soon as his voice fell, several strong men came out and dragged Qin Yi and Qin Xian out like dead dogs. "Let the people on the first floor leave. The scene is too bloody," Li Chongqing ordered. Su Xiaolin nodded immediately and shouted to the downstairs, "Get out of here!" Suddenly, the people who had been scared rushed out. 10 minutes later, all the people on the first floor had left, leaving only the leaders of Qingzhou, Yang Ren, Yang Qinggang, and others on the second floor. At this time, Yang Qinggang and his father had been scared out of their wits. Before Li Chongqing got angry, they knelt on the ground and kowtowed for mercy. "Mr. Li, we were wrong. Please let us go." Yang Qinggang, a famous entrepreneur in Qingzhou, was kowtowing at the moment. Snot and tears were flowing. His son, Yang Xiaowei, was so scared that his body trembled and he couldn't stop. Li Chongqing showed some disgust in his eyes and said faintly, "Get out of here, go back and prepare 50 million yuan as the money to buy your life, and transfer it to this account within 7 days." Li Chongqing pulled a piece of paper from the table, then wrote down the bank card account number given to him by Chu Yaotian and threw it directly in front of Yang Qinggang. Yang Qinggang hurriedly took the paper in his hand and kowtowed several times. "Thank you, Mr. Li, for not killing me." He was really scared. "Get out of here," Su Xiaolin snorted. Yang Qinggang and his father left with each other. When they reached the stairs, because their legs were weak, they directly rolled down. Their heads were bruised and bleeding, but they didn't dare to stop at all. They rolled and crawled down the stairs. After the father and son left, Li Chongqing looked at Yang Ren. Seeing Li Chongqing's gaze, Yang Ren was so scared that his legs gave out and he knelt on the ground. "Mr. Li, I am also willing to pay, as long as you spare my life, no matter how much it is." Yang Ren had a lot of power in Chuzhou City and even in the nearby provinces. He was nicknamed Yang Six Fingers because he was born with 6 fingers on his right hand. People said that people with 6 fingers were smart, and Yang Ren was indeed very smart. It was said that he was even recommended to go to university. However, after he graduated from university, he didn't choose to find a stable job. Instead, he embarked on a bloody journey to become a tyrant. With his smart brain and the knowledge he learned in school, he quickly completed the primitive accumulation. In less than 10 years, he became a well-known figure in Chuzhou City. Because of his excellent social skills, he had built a huge network of connections. He had always been successful in Chuzhou City, and this time, he was determined to expand his territory in one fell swoop. However, he didn't expect that his perfect plan would be ruined by Li Chongqing. Fighting and killing is not good. Yang Qinggang and his father are willing to pay 50 million for your life, then you can pay up. "Thank you, Mr. Li." Yang Ren heaved a sigh of relief and got up to leave. However, Li Chongqing said again, "Wait a minute, I'm not done yet. Apart from taking out 100 million yuan, if you cut off another finger, you'll have to cut off your 6th finger." "What?" Yang Ren's face changed color. If Yang Six Fingers lost his 6th finger, then he would lose all his prestige and become a laughing stock. "What? You don't want to?" Li Chongqing raised an eyebrow, and the Chuzhou City tycoon trembled in fear. "Yes." Yang Ren spat out the 2 words with difficulty, as if all the energy in his body had been sucked out. Losing a finger was a great humiliation to him, and it was even more humiliating than paying the 100 million. However, he didn't dare to resist and could only accept his fate. He was smart enough to see that Li Chongqing was the king of hell. Dignity was precious, but compared to life, he would still choose to save his own life. The ancestral founder had said it clearly: smart people are all afraid of death. Chapter 94. The hand rose and the knife fell. Yang Ren's 6th finger was directly chopped off. He clenched his teeth, his head full of cold sweat, but he was also a stubborn person, so he didn't make a sound. The subordinate next to him hurriedly went up to bandage him. Li Chongqing waved his hand and said, "Scram." Only then did the man walk down the stairs, as if he was pardoned. At this time, all the big shots in Qingzhou were trembling with fear. They knew that today's matter was undoubtedly a huge earthquake to the situation in Qingzhou. After today, this mysterious young man would become the new ruler of Qingzhou. After all, even one of the 2 big mountains in the north, Su Xiaolin, had to be respectful to him. They really couldn't imagine who in Qingzhou could go against him. And the Chu family that was close to Li Chongqing undoubtedly had an even more solid position. "Why aren't you going to save your father?" Li Chongqing glanced at Chu Xing, who was standing there dumbfounded, and said coldly. He didn't have a high evaluation of Chu Yaotian's son. In general, there were only 4 words: tiger father, dog son. Yes, yes. Chu Xing hurriedly nodded, looking at this young man who appeared out of nowhere like a demon king with a complicated expression. There was a trace of excitement from turning defeat into victory in his heart, but there was also respect. He killed the father and son of the Qin family without mercy. This kind of ruthlessness shouldn't appear at his age. Chu Xing left with his people. Other than the big shots in Qingzhou who were spectating, there was only Xie, who stood there looking at Li Chongqing with some fear. Sir, I'll have someone sell her to Africa. Su Xiaolan's subordinates immediately stood up. In everyone's eyes, Li Chongqing's casual words were equivalent to an imperial edict in their ears. Xie's bodyguard Green Shark subconsciously took a step forward, but when he saw Su Xiaolan's gloomy face, he couldn't help but put away the dagger in his hand. Su Xiaolan of the big mountain in the north wasn't someone a small green shark like him could afford to offend. When Xie saw Green Shark's actions, a trace of despair appeared in her eyes. This time she was really scared. Seeing that Su Xiaolan's men were about to step forward, she, who had lost the protection of her bodyguards, was a weak woman, a hedgehog without thorns. She wanted to retreat, but found that there was no way to avoid it. Just as her body was trembling slightly, Li Chongqing said, "Wait a minute, it's a pity to sell such a beautiful girl to Africa." As he spoke, he took a few steps forward and stopped in front of Xie. He stretched out his hand and pinched her jade-like chin. Then, he gently caressed her cheek and stroked it all the way down. At this moment, Xie was completely dumbfounded and forgot to dodge. When Li Chongqing's hand reached into her collar and gently pinched it, she suddenly woke up. At this moment, Li Chongqing had already extended his hand and placed it at the tip of his nose to sniff it. He smiled and said, "All right, this is the price for offending me." Then, he didn't look at Xie anymore. Instead, he looked at Su Xiaolan and said, "Let's go. Today's matter ends here." Su Xiaolan nodded and respectfully responded. Then, he accompanied Li Chongqing out of the stadium. It wasn't until more than 10 minutes after Li Chongqing and the others left that Xie reacted. She felt a faint pain in her chest and her face was red. She looked at the bodyguard next to her and shouted, "Why didn't you do anything just now?" The bodyguard smiled bitterly and said, "If I did, the miss and I would be dead by now." Hearing this, Xie couldn't help but think of that ordinary but mysterious face. A chill rose in her heart. In the end, she bit her lips and walked out of the stadium without saying a word. The rest of the big shots in Qingzhou looked at each other. Was that man really Su Xiaolan? One of the big shots in Qingzhou asked. Indeed, Su Xiaolan was famous in the north, but not many people had seen his face. After all, Qingzhou was still too small and their level was not high enough. Except for Su Xiaolan, who has such an arrogant and overbearing attitude. Who can break one of Naylan Yuting's legs without blinking? We may be wrong, but Naylan Yuting will never be wrong. What is the identity of that young man? The more many people thought about it, the more terrified they felt. The existence that could make Su Xiaolan bow his head was probably at the top of the entire huaxia. Outside the stadium, Lu Yao didn't leave directly. Instead, she squatted alone under a willow tree in a daze. Today's incident was a big blow to her. Originally, she and Yang Xiaowei thought that they had hooked up with a rich husband. But she never expected that Li Chongqing, who was once despised by her, was the real son of heaven. Yang Xiaowei didn't even dare to fart in front of him. To be able to sit on the second floor and have such powerful bodyguards, his identity must be very extraordinary. Isn't this the rich husband that I've always wanted? What a pity, if I hadn't been so decisive in class back then. Lu Yao's heart was filled with great regret. However, when she thought of the row of luxury cars that just re-entered the parking lot and the group of people who went down aggressively, her face showed a little joy. Those people who were injured by Li Changxing's subordinates, looking at their aggressive appearance, must be going to revenge on him. She was afraid that he was already dead. These people in the underworld were cruel and merciless. Perhaps it was really a blessing in disguise. Just as Lu Yao comforted herself, she suddenly saw many people running out of the stadium. Listening to their discussion, it seemed that someone had been killed. Her pretty face was even paler. Did Li Changxing die inside? Just as she hesitated whether to leave or not, she suddenly saw a group of arrogant guys coming out. In addition to the middle-aged man with a particularly strong aura, there was also a relatively thin figure. He was Li Changxing. When Lu Yao saw the other party's face clearly, she was stunned. These people were not going to revenge on him, but his subordinate. At this moment, Lu Yao's heart suddenly jumped with a huge sense of loss. What is his identity? I actually managed to walk out of there unscathed. What did I miss? She stood under the willow tree in a daze. Li Changxing and others just passed by in front of her. She wanted to open her mouth to say hello, but Li Changxing didn't look back at her from beginning to end, as if she was just a stranger. When Li Changxing got into Su Xiaolin's car and left, Lu Yao reacted and clenched her fist. Li Changxing, you bastard, you ignored me. You will die a horrible death. After she shouted this sentence hysterically, she squatted on the ground and sobbed. Some things, once missed, would be missed forever and could never be found again. Chapter 95. Sitting in Su Xiaolin's car, Li Changxing was resting quietly with his eyes closed. Su Xiaolin, the famous heavenly king of the north, was driving in front. He drove very slowly for fear of disturbing Li Changxing's thinking. The matter of the Yang father and son has been settled. Yu Yue doesn't need anyone to protect her anymore. You can withdraw Peng Tiexin. Yes. Su Xiaolin nodded hurriedly and then asked carefully, Sir, Peng Tiexin is quite smart. Why don't you let him stay by your side to deal with some things that are inconvenient for you to do? Before he worked for me, Peng Tiexin was a mercenary abroad. Not only is he good in martial arts, but he is also very experienced in hiding, assassination, and protection. Okay. Li Changxing thought about it and nodded. He was now a student. There were some things that he could not do. It was much more convenient to have someone at his beck and call. Send me back to Yuan Villa. Let's have a drink together later. Hearing Li Changxing's words, Su Xiaolin nodded hurriedly. His eyes were slightly red. He remembered the scene when Li Changxing led them to conquer the world. At that time, the group of brothers often drank together. Now that many years had passed and they each had their own business, it was difficult for them to get together again. A few days had passed since the boxing match. Life was peaceful again. Li Changxing went to a few classes. Overall, life was in a state of calm. It was Saturday. Not long after Li Changxing finished tutoring Lu Duoduo, the doorbell of the room rang. When he opened the door, it was Lu Duoduo's friends in his circle. There were both men and women. Why are you all here today? Lu Duoduo was planning to go out and play later. He was very happy to see them looking for him. Duoduo, I'm here today because someone asked me to. A man chuckled and took out a box from his bag. Didn't you take a fancy to a watch last time? Rolex limited edition. It's for you. For me. Lu Duoduo looked at him with suspicion in his eyes. I remember this watch costs more than 100,000 yuan. You're willing to give it to me? Of course not. Huang Bingzhong asked me to give it to you. Huang Bingzhong? I don't have a good relationship with him, so why would he give me a watch? Duoduo, don't ask when you already know the answer. Don't you know your tutor better than us? As soon as the other party spoke, Lu Duoduo suddenly understood. So it was because of Li Changxing. Lu Duoduo instantly understood when he remembered that day when he went out to eat with Li Changsheng. It was obvious that Huang Bingzhong had given in and was giving him a gift to please him. What is the identity of my brother Li? Just as Lu Duoduo was pondering, the girls beside him had already started chattering. Duoduo, can you tell us something? What is the identity of brother Li? Huang Bingzhong is not someone to be trifled with in our circle, but he actually gave in this time. That's right, Duoduo. You didn't introduce him clearly last time. Otherwise, Wang Lu wouldn't have offended him. The rich girl who had previously found Li Changsheng to be an eyesore had completely changed her tone today. What identity? He's definitely someone you can't afford to offend. Lu Duoduo didn't know what kind of background Li Changsheng had, but looking at Su Xiaolan's posture that day, he knew it wasn't ordinary. Let me tell you, this brother Li is very powerful. I was fortunate enough to have a meal with his backer. His aura was so strong that it scared my heart. Lu Duoduo said with a bit of pride. I heard that Yang Xiaowei and his son also admitted defeat. Yesterday, I heard from my friend that Yang Qinggang took his son to apologize to the waiter, Yu Wei, and even kowtowed on the spot. A girl at the KTV scene said. What? This time, even Ludwood's heart skipped a beat. Huang Bingzhong admitting defeat was fine, but Yang Xiaowei and his son had a background in the underworld. Moreover, he was a dignified entrepreneur, yet he actually knelt and apologized to a little girl. What kind of Buddha is this brother Li? Duoduo, can you ask brother Li out to play again? Many people in our circle have heard of brother Li's deeds and worship him. Yeah. I wonder if he has a girlfriend? A famous proud princess in the circle asked. This. I'll try my best, Lu Duoduo said as he kept the Rolex watch. It would be a waste if he didn't take advantage of this situation. As for asking Li Changsheng out, he really wasn't confident. Because Wang Dongxing and the others were still in the hospital, Li Changsheng went to the villa every day to cultivate, attend classes, go to the library, and sometimes go online. He had completely immersed himself in the role of a student. One day, just as he came back from the field, he was blocked by a figure. Surnamed Li, I finally caught you. The voice was pleasing to the ear, and at the same time, it carried a bit of pride. Looking up, it was Chu Meng's best friend, Jing Chan. Seeing this girl, Li Changsheng felt a bit helpless. He had just woken up and coincidentally witnessed the scene of her changing clothes. He had offended this girl. At the same time, he felt a bit guilty. Although he didn't do it on purpose, he still took advantage of her. Miss, it's been so long since the incident at 9 Emperor's Mountain. I didn't do it on purpose. It should be over by now. Who knew that the other party just snorted and put her hands on her waist and said, You pervert, I said a few times that I would teach you a lesson. Did you think I was joking? Today, I found my boyfriend. He's over there. Saying that, she waved her hand and said, Brother Nan, come here. I caught the pervert who peeked at me changing clothes. You have to teach him a lesson for me. A figure turned the corner and walked over with a few underlings. As he walked, he shouted, I'd like to see who has the guts to mess with my Situ Nan's girlfriend. Situ Nan? Hearing this name, Li Changsheng's face couldn't help but reveal a strange expression. What? Are you scared? There's no use being scared. I have to teach you a lesson today. Jing Chan snorted when she saw Li Changsheng's expression. I'm scared? The one who should be scared is your boyfriend. Li Changsheng said with a smile. What did you say? You're still so stubborn. My boyfriend is one of the 4 young masters of the school. Why would he be scared? What a joke. Who do you think you are? Ha ha! Li Changsheng shook his head. At this time, Situ Nan walked over with a few of his underlings in an aggressive manner. Who dares to bully our sister-in-law? One of the underlings wanted to show off in front of Situ Nan. He rolled up his sleeves and was about to hit Li Changsheng. Wait a minute. At this time, Situ Nan suddenly spoke. Brother Nan, you have to teach him a lesson for me. This guy is very arrogant. He knew that I'm your girlfriend, but he still refused to admit it. Jing Chan took the opportunity to complain. Kid, you're going to be taught a lesson. Jing Chan raised her chin and sneered. She originally thought that when she saw Situ Nan come over with a few underlings, Li Chongqing would be scared and beg for mercy. Who would have thought that Situ Nan would kneel in front of Li Chongqing? Brother Nan, what's wrong? Jing Chan's eyes widened. She didn't know how to react. The underlings behind him were also dumbfounded. Situ Nan, I haven't seen you for a few days and you've become so soft. You used to say a few harsh words. Why are you kneeling down now? Li Chongqing was also confused. Mr. Li, please spare my life. I was wrong. Please don't kill me. Situ Nan kowtowed like he was pounding garlic. His body was trembling. Everyone was dumbfounded. What was going on? Situ Nan, one of the 4 young masters of the Qingzhou University, looked like he saw a ghost when he saw Li Chongqing. Jing Chan, who was next to him, was even more confused. You know about the Qin family? Li Chongqing suddenly thought of something. Only the news of what happened in the finals could frighten the dignified young master of the Situ clan to this extent. Yes sir, okay, get out. Situ Nan still wanted to say something, but he was interrupted by Li Chongqing. He didn't want his fight at the tournament to be known by everyone. Yes. Situ Nan hurriedly grabbed Jing Chan's hand and left. Remember not to reveal my identity. Otherwise, you'll have to bear the consequences, Li Chongqing added. Situ Nan thought that Li Chongqing was going to make him stay. He was so scared that he almost fell to the ground. Jing Chan, who was next to him, was full of suspicion. Identity? What is his identity? Not far away, Wu Shaowan passed by with a book in her arms. She saw this scene and her eyes were full of suspicion. To be able to make Situ Nan kneel, this guy's background is not simple. Chapter 96. Li Chongqing, what a coincidence! Wu Shaowan hesitated for a moment, but she still greeted Li Chongqing with a bright smile on her face. Are you Principal Wu's daughter? Li Chongqing recognized the other party with a single glance. Not to mention the other party's beauty, even if the other party was an ordinary person on the side of the road, Li Chongqing would not forget their appearance as long as he took a glance at them. Li Chongqing was helpless against this kind of terrifying memory, but it was something he was born with. Perhaps his mysterious master had chosen to take him away, accept him as a disciple, and teach him cultivation methods because he saw this when he passed by their village. Li Chongqing naturally respected his master, but he also had some resentment. If his master had not taken him away, he would not have been unable to see his parents for the last time, and he would not have lived one life after another without knowing what he wanted to pursue. He also thought of the first time he woke up from a deep sleep. The Taoist temple and his master had disappeared at the same time, and the people at the foot of the mountain said that they had never seen the Taoist temple on the mountain. The identity of his master had troubled Li Chongqing for life. He knew that everything had really existed, but why was there no trace of it? Master, who are you? Where did you go in the end? Seeing Li Chongqing standing there in a daze, especially those deep eyes that seemed to contain many stories, Wu Shaowan became more and more curious. How could a young man in his 20s have this kind of temperament that only appeared on people who had experienced the vicissitudes of life? Student Li. Wu Shaowan tried to call him again. Li Chongqing reacted and could not help but smile apologetically. I'm really sorry, Miss Wu. It's okay. I heard from my dad that you play Go very well. It just so happens that my boyfriend is also proficient in Go. Are you interested in arranging a game with him someday? He claims to be the #1 amateur Go player. You have a boyfriend? Li Chongqing was slightly stunned. Why? Is it strange? Wu Shaowan smiled. If the students in the school knew about this, I'm afraid many of them would be heartbroken. Li Chongqing smiled faintly. As for playing chess, let's do it another day. After saying that, he waved at Wu Xiaowan and left the field. Wu Xiaowan stared blankly at Li Chongqing's departing figure. This guy looks ordinary, but he seems to be shrouded in a mysterious aura. I heard that he managed to woo the campus belle Yu Yue from Green Vine Middle School. My old, stubborn father didn't break them up. He even admires him. What an interesting guy. Walking out of the field, Li Chongqing walked straight out of the school. Walking out of the school gate, an ordinary-looking Santana sedan had been waiting for a long time. Mr. Li, are we going to Green Vine High School now? Yes. Li Chongqing nodded, then opened the door and got in. At this time, Wu Xiaowan was driving out of the school gate. When she saw the ordinary-looking Santana, she was surprised. Before Wu Xiaowan bought the car, she paid special attention to car magazines for a period of time. Once, she accidentally saw a modified car with the same wheel hub as this Santana. The brand of the wheel hub was called a Sandy. It was a luxury brand that specialized in car wheel hubs. If such a wheel hub appeared in sports cars like Maserati or Porsche, it would not be strange. Even if it appeared in a BMW that cost hundreds of thousands, it would still be acceptable. But a Santana with such a wheel hub could only mean that the owner wanted to make the car have super performance, but didn't want to be too ostentatious. Li Chongqing, who are you? Why are you so low-key? Wu Xiaowan took a deep breath. She was getting more and more curious. Peng Tiexin drove at a steady speed. Li Chongqing almost didn't feel any bumps along the way. Of course, this was also related to the extensive modification of the Santana. To put it bluntly, the modification fee on this car could buy hundreds of such Santanas. At this time, Li Chongqing called Yu Yue. He had just bought the mobile phone for Yu Yue 2 days ago. Yu Yue came from a poor family. She was in high school, and her classmates all had mobile phones. But she was devoted to her studies. The day before yesterday, Li Chongqing had personally picked a new mobile phone for her. She didn't dare to let her family find out. She only dared to call Li Chongqing when she left home today. After walking for 20 minutes, he arrived at the gate of Green Vine Middle School. A pretty figure was waiting quietly. That figure was naturally Yu Yue. When she saw Li Chongqing get out of the car, her face suddenly bloomed with a smile. You called me and asked me to come to school to find you. Where do you want to go? I'll accompany you. Li Chongqing asked with a smile. He rushed over because he received a call from Yu Yue. It's already 5 o'clock. I have to work part-time at night, so I can't go with you, Yu Yue said in a low voice. She seemed to be a little guilty. Didn't I tell you to tell me if you don't have money? Why are you working part-time again? Li Chongqing said with a little bit of blame. A beautiful girl like Yu Yue was easy to be targeted. The ancients said that beautiful women were often unlucky. Beauty was the original sin. How can I use your money? Yu Yue shook her head. I started working part-time a long time ago. Although it's a little busy every day, it's not too tiring. Where are you working part-time now? Li Chongqing asked. I'm working as a waitress in a restaurant. I work a 3-hour shift. 10 yuan an hour. Okay. Li Chongqing sighed. He knew that this girl looked weak, but she had a strong personality. Then why did you call me? Li Chongqing reached out and rubbed Yu Yue's cheek. She had a ponytail, a white shirt, and a pair of faded jeans. She was so simple that it made people tremble. It made Li Chongqing think of a delicate flower in a storm. Although it was weak, it grew tenaciously. My mother found the phone you bought for me yesterday. I put it in the closet. I told them you were my friend. They said they wanted to meet you and invite you to my house for dinner. After that, Yu Yue looked at Li Chongqing carefully, afraid that Li Chongqing would refuse. In Green Vine Middle School, she was the school belle that everyone could only dream of, but in front of Li Chongqing, she was always so weak. She didn't have the temperament of a spoiled and unruly young lady. Most men would probably feel pity for her. What a good girl. She's my girlfriend. Li Chongqing suddenly had a strange feeling. He smiled and said, "Okay, let's go now." Chapter 97. Li Chongqing and Yu Wei came to an old residential area, walked into a building, and went to the 6th floor. This residential area was built more than 10 years ago. The highest floor was only 6 floors, and the corridor was full of junk. In front of 601, Yu Wei knocked on the door. It was her mother who opened the door with a smile on her face. "You must be Yu Wei's classmate. Come in and sit down." Yu Wei's mother was in her 40s, but because of years of work, her face was full of wrinkles, and she looked more than 10 years older than her actual age. Walking into the room, a man in a vest was sitting on the sofa. It was Yu Wei's father, Yu Baoguo. There was a plate of peanuts and a bottle of white wine on the coffee table. Li Chongqing and Yu Wei came in. Yu Baoguo glanced at them, then pointed to the seat next to him and said, "Sit down." "Mom, what are you cooking today?" "I'll help you." Yu Wei poured a cup of tea and put it in front of Li Chongqing, then went to the kitchen. "I bought some streaky pork today. I'll make braised pork for you later." Yu Wei's mother, Millennia, was a typical rural woman. According to Yu Wei, the family moved to the city in order to provide for her education. Her mother did some cleaning work, and her father took some odd jobs on the street. This house was also rented. "Young man, what does your family do?" Yu Baoguo picked up the wine glass and took a sip of the white wine, then asked casually. "My parents passed away a long time ago, and now I live alone." "I see. I'm sorry to bring up your sad story." Yu Baoguo put a peanut into his mouth and crunched it. "It's okay." Li Chongqing smiled. "By the way, what do you plan to do after graduating from university?" "I haven't thought about it yet. I'll take it one step at a time." Li Chongqing was telling the truth. He really hadn't thought about what to do in the future, and his personal situation was a little complicated. There were many things that he couldn't explain clearly to Yu Baoguo. However, in Yu Baoguo's ears, these words were obviously somewhat vague. He took another sip of wine and stared at the TV. He stopped talking to Li Chongqing. After a while, the dishes were served. Yu Wei specially placed the plate of braised pork in front of Li Chongqing and whispered to him, "This meat was cooked by my mother. I helped her make it. You must try more." "All right." Li Chongqing nodded. Beside him, Yu Baoguo sighed. The meal went by peacefully. After dinner, it was already past 7 p.m. Yu Wei had to go to the restaurant to work, and Li Chongqing also had to leave. At this time, Yu Wei's mother came into the house and took out a small stack of 100 yuan notes and handed it to Li Chongqing. "You bought that phone for Yu Wei, didn't you? It's too expensive. You must accept this money." Li Chongqing hurriedly refused, but he couldn't persuade her. In the end, he had to accept 500 yuan and said that it was enough to pay for the phone. Only then did Yu Wei's mother give up. Before leaving, Li Chongqing left Yu Wei's mother his phone number and said that if she encountered any difficulties, she could look for him. After accepting it, she casually placed it on the table next to her. After Li Chongqing and Yu Wei left, Yu Wei's mother sighed and walked to the sofa to sit down. "Old Yu, it seems that our daughter is in love with this young man." "Yeah, why would he give her a phone if they weren't in love?" Yu Baoguo snorted coldly. "I think this young man is quite polite and honest." Yu Wei's mother had just started speaking when she was interrupted by Yu Baoguo. "What's the use of being honest? I deliberately tried to get information from him before dinner. His parents died early, and he didn't have any plans for his future. He probably relied on the savings left by his parents to live a comfortable life now. Such a person can solve his own problems after graduation. At that time, I leaned against the window and saw that the car that sent him here was a Volkswagen Santana. Now, even old Wang, who works with me, drives a better car than the Volkswagen Santana. My Yue is so beautiful, how can she find such a boyfriend? Hearing Yu Baogua's words, Yu Yue's mother also sighed. You're right. Yue is still young and doesn't understand what love is. It's just a matter of time. She'll understand when she gets older. That won't do. Yu Baogua placed the wine glass heavily on the coffee table. When Yue comes back tonight, I'll have a good talk with her. After saying that, he stood up. I'm going to walk around outside first. As he spoke, he saw the note on the dining table. He directly grabbed the note, crumpled it into a ball, and threw it into the trash can. He even said to call him if there's anything. Who does he think he is? After saying that, he walked out of the house with a gloomy face. After leaving Yu Yue's house, Li Chongqing sent Yu Yue to the entrance of the restaurant where she worked before leaving. It was almost 8 o'clock at this time. Yu Yue walked into the restaurant. Today, the entire restaurant had been booked in advance. It was said that it was for the birthday of a rich young master. Not long after Yu Yue went in, guests came one after another and started to get busy. Yu Yue placed a bottle of red wine on the table and was about to go down to rest for a while when a man blocked her way. Miss, there's something I need your help with. The man was in his 20s. He was wearing a suit and was very handsome. Yu Yue recognized him. He was the main character of today's banquet, the young master of the Lin family, Lin Mo. As a waitress, Yu Yue of course had to greet guests with a smile. What can I do for you? It's like this. You see, the friends who came to my birthday party today are all in pairs, but I, the main character, don't even have a girlfriend. Can you temporarily act as my girlfriend? I'm afraid that's not possible. Yu Yue shook her head. Also, many of your friends saw that I was just a waitress. It's okay. I'll just say that we fell in love at first sight. I'm a very emotional person. My friends know my personality. They won't suspect anything. Lin Mo continued. I really can't. Yu Yue shook her head again. Just then, the manager of the restaurant walked over. Lin Mo waved at the manager and said, Manager Jia, I'm considered a regular customer of your restaurant, right? Of course. Manager Jia nodded with a fawning expression. I want your waitress to act as my girlfriend. Is that okay? As long as she agrees to be my girlfriend, all of the Lin family's social engagements for the next year will come to your restaurant. You also know the Lin family's ability. We have many business engagements every year. Manager Jia's eyes lit up when he heard this. If he could get this big order from the Lin family, he would have made a great contribution to his boss. Yue, it's just acting as his girlfriend. The customer is God. How can you refuse? Go change out of your uniform later. This. Yu Yue wanted to refuse, but the manager had already turned around and walked to the hall. However, the young master of the Lin family, Lin Mo, had a smug smile on his face. Chapter 98. The birthday party officially began, and it was a lively scene. Manager Jia walked over and saw that Yu Yue had not changed out of her work clothes. He was a little unhappy. Yue, what's the matter? I only asked you to pretend to be his girlfriend, not really his girlfriend. How about this? I'll give you an extra 100 yuan today. Hurry up and go. Otherwise, you don't have to come to work tomorrow. I don't want a disobedient employee like you. You know that there are many places that refuse to hire temporary workers like you. This, Yu Yue thought about it and finally nodded. Okay. She went backstage to change her clothes. When Lin Mo appeared at the entrance of the hall, his eyes lit up. He walked over and said with a smile, You're Yu Yue, right? You finally agreed. As he spoke, he reached out to hold Yu Yue's hand. However, Yu Yue took a step back and dodged his hand. Lin Mo was not angry. He walked back to the stage, picked up the microphone, and said, "Everyone, please be quiet. I have something to announce." As soon as he finished speaking, the noise in the hall gradually died down. Everyone's eyes were filled with curiosity. Lin Mo cleared his throat and waved to Yu Wei at the door. "Yu Wei, come here." This time, everyone's eyes were focused on Yu Wei. Yu Wei stood next to Lin Mo. Lin Mo opened his mouth again. "Since it's my birthday today, I'd like to announce something happy. Miss Yu Wei and I fell in love at first sight. She's now my girlfriend." Wow. As soon as he finished speaking, there was a sudden commotion. Everyone was a little surprised by this sudden news. "Young Master Lin, aren't you a little too fast? He just broke up with Xiao Qier 3 days ago, and he found a new girlfriend today. But young Master Lin is so handsome, young and rich. Naturally, he doesn't have to worry about finding a girlfriend." "Isn't that the waitress who served us red wine just now?" Someone voiced his doubts. "Yes, that's her. At that time, I was saying that even a waitress was so beautiful. To be able to catch young Master Lin's eye and become young Master Lin's girlfriend, she can be considered to have flown to the branch to become a phoenix. Young Master Lin, congratulations." A man raised his glass. "Young Master Lin is indeed young Master Lin." Someone gave him a thumbs up. As Lin Mo listened to the compliments around him, he couldn't help but feel proud of himself. He glanced at Yu Wei beside him and realized that Yu Wei was staring blankly like a wooden puppet. He couldn't help but pick up 2 glasses of wine, one for himself and the other for Yu Wei. "Yu Wei, today is my birthday. Have a drink with me." Yu Wei was in a difficult position. "What? If you want to act like a girlfriend, you have to act like one. Do you think you'll be fine just by standing here? If you do that, I'll complain to your manager." "All right." Yu Wei thought in her heart that she only drank a sip. The other party was a big customer of the restaurant. If she offended the other party and brought losses to the restaurant, Manager Jia would eat her alive. Yu Wei picked up her glass and clinked it with Lin Mo's. Then, she took a sip. Many waitresses in charge of serving the dishes also looked at Yu Wei in confusion. Especially a few girls, their eyes were filled with envy. They thought that it was good to be beautiful. She had only been working for a few days, and she was already chosen by a rich young master. "Yu Wei, one more glass." At Lin Mo's request, Yu Wei continuously toasted each table. Before she even finished toasting, Yu Wei's cheeks turned red. "Young Master Lin, I really can't drink anymore." Yu Wei shook her dizzy head and waved her hand at Lin Mo's friend, who stood up. Lin Mo gave his friend a look, and the man's face immediately darkened. "What do you mean? You can't drink anymore? So many people have already toasted you. Are you not going to give me face?" After he finished speaking, he slammed his hand on the table. Suddenly, the room became silent. "Everyone in the industry knows what kind of person I am. If you don't give me face, I won't let this go." Hearing the other party's words, Yu Wei hurriedly apologized. "Wang Xiao, I'm sorry. I really can't drink anymore. I don't usually drink." "I don't care. If you don't apologize to me, even if you're Lin Mo's girlfriend, I won't allow it." Yu Wei was about to cry. "Then I'll take a sip." As she spoke, she picked up the glass and took a sip. Unexpectedly, the other party sneered and shook his head. "You didn't drink when I asked you to. How can you be sincere if you drink now?" As he spoke, he picked up a bottle of wine and poured Yu Wei's glass full. "Drink this glass. Nothing will happen. I can't drink anymore. I'm in a bad mood today. This isn't over." "Wang Shi, Yu Wei is my girlfriend. How can you talk to her like that?" Lin Mo stood up, grabbed the wine glass in Yu Wei's hand, and took a big gulp. Almost half of the full glass of wine was drunk. "Yu Wei, I gave you half. Drink the other half. Otherwise, I'll be in a difficult position." Lin Mo looked embarrassed, but he couldn't hide the pride in his eyes. Yu Wei looked at the red wine in Lin Mo's hand and the strange look in the eyes of the people at the table. She suddenly understood something. She directly pushed the wine glass away and said loudly, "Young Master Lin, I'm just pretending to be your girlfriend. Your request is too much. I can't accept it." As she spoke, she turned around to leave. However, as soon as she took a step, Lin Mo stepped forward and grabbed her arm and pulled her back. "I asked you to pretend to be my girlfriend. Now that you've exposed me, I'm afraid it won't be that easy for you to leave." At this moment, the waitresses in the restaurant sensed that something was wrong. A female head waiter wanted to step forward, but was pulled back by manager Jia. "How dare you meddle in young Master Lin's business? Go away." "But Yu Wei, she's just a young girl. It's her fortune that young Master Lin likes her. If she could become young Master Lin's woman, she wouldn't need to work." After speaking, the manager pointed to the waitresses next to him. The waitresses immediately understood the manager's meaning, and a complicated look appeared in their eyes. At this moment, Yu Wei's face also turned ugly. "Young Master Lin, let go of me." "Let go of you?" Lin Mo sneered. "I can let go of you, as long as you agree to be my girlfriend." As he spoke, his other hand touched Yu Wei's cheek. At this moment, Yu Wei did something unexpected. She raised her hand and gave Lin Mo a resounding slap. Slap! The crisp and clear voice caused the entire place to fall silent. Even Lin Mo was stunned for a moment. Then, he reacted with a fierce look in his eyes. "How dare you hit me? Let's see how I'll deal with you." As he spoke, he grabbed her wrist and tried to pull her out. "Let go of me." Yu Wei kept struggling. In a moment of desperation, she grabbed a wine glass on the table and splashed half of the red wine on Lin Mo's face. Seeing the red wine splash, Lin Mo instinctively blocked it. In an instant, he let go of Yu Wei. Yu Wei turned and ran to the second floor. Lin Mo wiped the wine off his body and cursed, "F***ck, how dare you splash me? I'll do you right here today." As he spoke, he aggressively chased after her to the second floor. He saw Yu Wei run into a private room and lock the door from the inside. "Break the door open," Lin Mo ordered. Immediately, a few men rushed up and kicked the door of the private room, creating a hole in the wooden door. Chapter 99. It was already past 9 o'clock. Yu Baogua, who had just returned from a stroll, poured himself a glass of wine and sipped it slowly. He couldn't help but sigh. His daughter had found a boyfriend so early, which was enough to annoy him. However, the boy's parents were dead and he had no one to rely on. Yu Baogua, who wanted to raise a daughter so he could live a happy life with her in the future, was very annoyed. Yu Wei's mother was watching TV in the living room. Shui Pingue was being played on TV. Yu Wei's mother thought that perhaps the boy who came today, whom she found pleasing to the eye, would have great achievements in the future. However, when she looked at her husband, who was drinking alone, she finally sighed. When she married him, she also thought that she might be able to create a happy life with her hard-working hand. However, in reality, a poor person's hard work for 10 years was not as good as a rich person's. The social hierarchy had long been determined, and it was extremely difficult to climb up the social ladder. At this moment, the old Nokia phone on the coffee table rang. "Who's calling so late at night?" Yu Baogua cursed as he picked up the phone. When he saw that it was an unknown number, he hesitated and finally picked it up. Yu Wei's sobbing voice came from the phone. "Dad. Yu Baogua instantly sobered up. "How did you offend such a rich second generation?" After Yu Baogua hung up the phone, his hands trembled. When he explained the situation to his wife, the old couple's eyes turned red. "What should we do? Our family is from the countryside. We don't have any relatives in the city. What should we do if we offend such a person? Should we call the police?" Yu Wei's mother said. No, he's rich and powerful. What's the use of calling the police? By the way, didn't Yu Yue's boyfriend leave a note when he left today? Let's see if he has any ideas. Yu Yue's mother suddenly remembered. Him? What can he do? Even so, Yu Baogwa still went to the trash can and rummaged through it. He found the note and dialed the number on it. Hello? Chongqing, something happened to Yu Wei. At this time, Li Chongqing was lying on his bed in the dormitory. When he heard Yu Baogwa's voice on the other end of the phone, he suddenly sat up in shock. What happened to Yu Wei? Yu Wei was detained in the hotel. She hid in the private room and called us. Yu Baogwa stuttered as he explained the matter to Li Chongqing. What should we do? Chongqing, see if your family knows any relatives. Can they help save Yu Wei? Don't worry. A cold glint flashed across Li Chongqing's eyes, but he still comforted her. I know the manager of that hotel. I'll bring Yu Wei back now. Do you really know the manager of Nanning Hotel? Of course, don't worry. Li Chongqing hung up the phone and left the dormitory. At the same time, he called Peng Tiexin, who lived near the school. Outside the school, the Santana was already waiting for Li Chongqing at the school gate. Sitting in the car, Li Chongqing said coldly, "Go to Nanning Hotel." Peng Tiexin didn't dare to delay and hurriedly stepped on the accelerator. By the way, do you know anything about Nanning Hotel? Sitting in the back seat, Li Chongqing lit a cigarette. He was a little irritated. I think it's a property of the Chu family. Li Chongqing raised his eyebrows when Peng Tiexin finished speaking. A company under Chu Yaotian? Yes. Peng Tiexin nodded. Okay, I got it. Li Chongqing took out his mobile phone and called Yu Yue first. When the call was connected, the other side was in a mess. Li Chongqing shouted a few times, but no one answered. His face couldn't help but turn ugly. He urged, increase the speed to the maximum. I want to get to Nanning Hotel as soon as possible. Peng Tiexin responded and instantly stepped on the accelerator to the maximum. On the bumpy road, Peng Tiexin drove at a speed of 150 kilometers per hour. Li Chongqing then called Chu Yaotian. Almost as soon as he hung up the phone, more than 20 black cars drove out of the Chu family's mansion. The first car was a Lincoln MPV. Everyone in Chuzhou City knew that this was Chu Yaotian's personal car. Meanwhile, inside the Nanning Hotel, Yu Yue's private room was kicked open. Lin Mo stormed in and pulled Yu Yue out of the room. Then, he slapped Yu Yue's face hard. Slap. Suddenly, a clear handprint appeared on Yu Yue's cheek. Then, it started to swell. Many waiters and waitresses turned their heads away. Even the manager said cautiously, "Young Master Lin, if you make a big deal out of this, I will not be able to explain myself." Then, he looked at Yu Yue. Yue, it is your good fortune that young Master Lin likes you. You should just follow his orders. You are poor and you have to work since you are still in high school. If you follow young Master Lin, you won't have to worry about money. Shut up. Yu Yue shouted. You are the one who got me into this mess. My boyfriend just called me. He will be here soon. Although Lin Mo had slapped Li Chongqing's phone away, she still saw the number clearly. Yu Yue's face was a mess, but she wasn't panicking. I was so panicked that I didn't know how to look for Li Chongqing's number. That's why I called my family. They must be worried about me right now. Yu Yue was still thinking about her parents at a time like this. Your boyfriend? Manager Jia sneered. The one who drove you to work today, right? He drives a broken Santana. How can he compare to young Master Lin? When Lin Mo heard Yu Yue say that her boyfriend was coming, he thought that it was someone important. He was a little worried. The Lin family was only a second-rate family business in Qingzhou. There were many people that he couldn't afford to offend. For someone as beautiful as Yu Yue, it was very likely that she had hooked up with a rich second-generation heir in Qingzhou. However, when he heard the manager's words, the last trace of worry disappeared. Driving a Santana, even his own security guard drove a better car. How dare you threaten me? So what if your boyfriend is coming? If he comes, I will make him kneel in front of me and lick the soles of my shoes. Lin Mo said loudly. At this moment, footsteps came from the stairs. At this time, the surroundings were silent, so the sound of people walking up the stairs was especially loud. Everyone turned their heads and looked at the stairs in confusion. They saw that the first person to come up was a young man with an ordinary appearance. Behind him was an equally thin middle-aged man. Everyone was puzzled. Who is this? Is he Yu Yue's boyfriend? He looks like a poor student. How dare he come to save her? Chongqing, you are finally here. At this moment, Yu Yue pushed Lin Mo away and threw herself into Li Chongqing's arms. On the other side, Lin Mo's friends were stunned for a moment before a few of them chuckled. How dare this kind of person come to save the beauty? Don't tease me. Seeing Li Chongqing hugging Yu Yue, Lin Mo's eyes turned cold. He said in a cold voice, Boy, I like your girlfriend. Tell me, how much do you want to leave her? At this moment, Li Chongqing patted Yu Yue's back. Then, he raised his head and looked at Lin Mo. I like your mother. Ask your father for me. How much do you want to leave her? Chapter 100. Incomparable Silence. At this moment, whether it was Lin Mo, the people who came to celebrate Lin Mo's birthday, or the staff of Nanning Hotel, they were all dumbfounded. They all looked at Li Chongqing with shock. Who is this guy? He's actually so daring to say such things to the young master of the Lin family. This is no longer a provocation, it's an insult. At this moment, the young masters and young ladies all showed pity in their eyes. They knew that with Lin Mo's temper, this reckless young man would definitely die miserably. No one on the second floor spoke. They all stared at Li Chongqing. The waitresses all felt a sense of exaltation. They were at the bottom of society. How many of the rich people who came to spend money in the hotel treated them as humans? They didn't know how much they had to endure, how much they had to endure, how much they had to be scolded, and how much they had to be looked down upon. Now, someone finally stood up for Yu Yue and helped them vent their anger. Yu Yue's boyfriend is too domineering. The female manager clenched her fist. Which girl didn't fantasize about a peerless hero who stood up to protect her when she was at her most helpless? Although Li Chongqing's image was still far from that of a peerless hero, at this moment, in the eyes of Yu Yue and many other waitresses, he had already become a great person. Lin Mo was dumbfounded. Growing up, he had always been the one bullying others. When had he ever been bullied by others? Now there was a guy who pointed at his nose and said such extremely insulting words. Next to him, Lin Mo's friends reacted and were about to attack Li Chongqing. But Lin Mo stopped them. He stared at Li Chongqing and said, Who are you? Do you know the consequences of offending me? Li Chongqing lightly shook his head. I don't know the consequences of offending you, but I'm someone you can't afford to offend. As his voice fell, the sound of footsteps came from the stairs. Then, he saw an old man leading a group of subordinates walking over aggressively. At this moment, Li Chongqing said to Yu Yue, the next scene might be a little bloody. Wait for me downstairs. Okay. Yu Yue nodded obediently and walked downstairs. Wait a minute, who let her go? The young master of the Wang family, who was in cahoots with Lin Mo, shouted coldly. How dare you yell at my woman? Are you tired of living? As soon as Li Chongqing's voice, Wang Shao was sent flying and landed on the ground floor. Only then did everyone see clearly that the one who attacked was Peng Tiexin, who was following behind Li Chongqing. When everyone saw young Master Wang's appearance after landing, they all sucked in a breath of cold air. He was clutching his stomach and struggling non-stop. There was a broken wine bottle stuck in his stomach, and blood was flowing out of the bottle. Wang Shao, are you okay? A few rich young masters immediately rushed up to support Wang Xiao. Peng Tiexin stood there, but no one dared to approach him. At this moment, a group of people rushed up the stairs. The leader was Chu Yaotian and Chu Xing. Chairman, why are you here? The hotel manager knew Chu Yaotian and his son. He didn't expect the big boss behind the scenes to appear. He hurriedly went up to greet him. Chairman, there's a brat causing trouble in our hotel. He even injured our guest. The manager complained as soon as he came up. In response, Chu Yaotian coldly ordered, tie him up and wait for Mr. Li to get angry. What? The manager was stunned. He couldn't react. Two strong men came up from the side. Each of them grabbed one of his arms and pressed him to the ground. At this moment, Chu Yaotian quickly walked in front of Li Chongqing. He lowered his head and said, Greetings, Mr. Li. Something like this happened in my territory. Please punish me. Li Chongqing didn't say anything. He just looked calmly at Lin Mo, who was stunned on the spot. Who exactly are you? Lin Mo's voice was trembling. Just now, he had clearly heard the restaurant manager call the old man boss. Although he didn't know who the boss behind Nanming Hotel was, such a big hotel meant that the boss's family's wealth couldn't be worse than his. You don't deserve to know who I am. However, since you dared to offend my girlfriend today, you must be punished. As he spoke, he ordered Chu Yaotian, who was standing beside him. Break this young Master Lin's third leg. As for the rest, leave behind a finger each. As for the manager, I don't want to see him again. With that, Li Chongqing put his arm around Yu Yue's shoulder and walked down the stairs. Lin Mo was stunned for a moment before he understood what the third leg meant. His face instantly turned pale. The other men and women who came to celebrate Lin Mo's birthday screamed in fear. They were rich young ladies with delicate skin and tender flesh. Usually, if they were pricked by needles, they would have to go to the hospital. Now, someone wanted to cut off their fingers. The hotel manager was so scared that he wet his pants. When he saw Li Chongqing and Yu Yue walk past him, he hurriedly reached out to grab Yu Yue's leg. Yue, please don't kill me. Yu Yue was so scared that she took a few steps back. Li Chongqing went over and stepped on his hand. While the other party was screaming in pain, Li Chongqing grabbed a vase on the side and smashed it on the other party's head with a "kacha" sound. Immediately, the other party fainted. You're too noisy. Shut up. Li Chongqing clapped his hands. This scene provoked the rich young ladies even more. A few of them jumped over the railing on the second floor and jumped down. Plop, plop. Then, there was a series of screams. There was a distance of 7 to 8 meters between the second floor and the first floor. If one didn't learn martial arts, it would be strange if they didn't fall. This is a good choice. Li Chongqing nodded. Whoever doesn't want to have their fingers chopped off, jump down from here. As soon as he finished speaking, another 7 to 8 people mustered up the courage to jump down. However, the few women didn't have the courage. They were so scared that they squatted there and cried. Li Chongqing didn't have any intention of showing mercy to the fairer sex. Chu Yaotian gave a look. Immediately, countless strong men rushed up and pulled the crying men and women down. Ah! Don't chop off my fingers. I was wrong. I didn't do anything. I only scolded that woman. Just beat me up. I beg you, big brother, don't chop off my fingers. I'm beautiful. I'll accompany you for one night. Is that not enough? All kinds of voices played out the various expressions of the human world. At this moment, Lin Mo was so scared that his legs were trembling. Just now, Li Chongqing wanted to break his third leg. This was to make him impotent. Who are you? You brought a group of people to deal with me. I'm not convinced. If you have the guts, let me call for help. My father will come and kill you in a minute. Is that so? Li Chongqing showed some interest. He patted Yu Yue's shoulder and said with a smile, I'll give you a chance. Call now. If no one comes to save you in half an hour, I'll chop that thing up and feed it to the dogs. Hearing Li Chongqing's words, Lin Mo's eyes were rekindled with hope. He trembled as he took out his phone and dialed a number. "Hello, Dad. Someone wants to kill your son. Come and save me." "Yes, at Nanning Hotel. Call a few hundred people. Today, I must vent my anger." Chapter 101. This young Master Lin wants to compete with you in terms of numbers. Chu Yaotian, Qingzhou is your territory. Don't disappoint me. Li Chongqing found a chair and sat down. Yu Yue stood beside him obediently. "Don't worry, sir. Even if he sends a reinforced division here in Qingzhou, I will destroy him." Chu Yaotian patted his chest and promised. He had just taken over all the Qin family's forces in Qingzhou and regained control of Qingzhou. Before he could establish his authority, such a thing happened in his own hotel. A small son of a businessman in Qingzhou dared to offend his master, Mr. Li. This made him very angry. Gu Mangong, Su Xiaolin, and Qi Yu, who followed Li Chongqing back then, were all famous people in Huaxia. Chu Yaotian couldn't even control Qingzhou. This made him feel that he was a piece of trash in front of Li Chongqing. Lin Mo, who had just hung up the phone, suddenly turned pale and almost collapsed to the ground. Chu Yaotian. He didn't expect this old man to be Chu Yaotian. A few days ago, he heard from his father that there were a few people in Qingzhou that he definitely couldn't offend. Among them, Chu Yaotian was ranked first. "It's over. I actually offended Chu Yaotian." Lin Mo instantly lost all hope. He took out his phone again and used his trembling fingers to send a text message to his father, who was mobilizing troops to save him. Then, he turned around and resolutely jumped down from the second floor. Bang! There was a crisp sound. Everyone looked down from the second floor and saw Lin Mo lying on the ground. Blood kept flowing out of his head. It was obvious that he had died. "He's a smart person." Li Chongqing shook his head and comforted the pale Yu Yue. He told Chu Yaotian, "If you don't remove the roots, it will grow again in the spring. This kid must have sent a text message to his father about your identity. Whether his father comes or not, I don't want to see anyone from the Lin family in Qingzhou anymore." After that, he directly took Yu Yue down the stairs. After Li Chongqing left for a long time, Chu Yaotian ordered his subordinates to clean up the scene and deal with the aftermath. The remaining female supervisor and a group of waiters stood there trembling in fear. Today, they finally saw what a big shot was and what was called ruthlessness. At the same time, they were also lamenting that the girl who worked part-time in the restaurant and had a good temper like a sheep actually had such an arrogant and domineering boyfriend who was like a devil incarnate. "You really can't judge." The female manager sighed. At this moment, Li Chongqing had already taken Yu Yue home. Knocking on the old door, Yu Baoguo and his wife, whose eyes were red, saw their daughter standing in front of them. The three of them suddenly hugged each other and cried. After a long time, their emotions calmed down. "Thank you, young man," Yu Baoguo said to Li Chongqing very sincerely. Regardless of whether he liked this young man or not, this young man saved his daughter's life. "It's okay, it's what I should do. The manager of that hotel is my relative, so he agreed to let Yu Yue go. It's getting late, so I'll leave first. Yue, if you really want to work part-time, you can go back to the previous bar. It's opened by my friend. I'll ask him to take care of you." "Okay." Yu Yue nodded. Li Chongqing then left. It was already past 11 o'clock at night when he returned to the dormitory. Jiang Tao, Zhang Xiaofeng, and Jiang Tao were playing games. They were so focused that they didn't have time to pay attention to Li Chongqing when he came back. On the other side, Yang Fan was browsing the school forum out of boredom. Suddenly, he shouted, "That's too explosive!" Li Chongqing was speechless. Even Zhang Xiaofeng and Jiang Tao put down their phones and looked at him strangely. "Did you guys see the school forum?" Qingzhou's boss, Chu Yaotian, personally went out. More than 20 cars passed by the street. It seems like he's going to do something big. As he spoke, he flipped through a few pages on his phone. He looked at the phone and said, more than 50 men and women were carried out of Nanming Hotel. A few of them are students from Qingzhou University. They all seem to be rich kids. At this time, Jiang Tao's phone rang. Su Ying's voice came from the other side of the phone. Brother Tao, a friend of mine had an accident at Nanming Hotel. One of his fingers was chopped off. I heard that he went to Lin family's young master's birthday party and offended a mysterious person. You know Lin family's young master. You didn't go to his birthday party, right? Hearing Su Ying's words, Jiang Tao was stunned. He then shook his head and said, no, that Lin family's young master is not a good person. I had a falling out with him last month. You should stay away from his friends. After answering his girlfriend's call, Jiang Tao took a deep breath. It seems that Lin family's young master offended someone from the Chu family. Old Master Chu personally went out and crippled him. I used to have some friendship with Lin family's young master. Fortunately, I saw that guy was not a good person and broke off contact with him. Otherwise, if I also went to the party, wouldn't one of my fingers be chopped off as well? Hearing Jiang Tao's words, Zhang Xiaofeng and Yang Fan both had a gossipy heart. Quickly tell us, what is Lin family's young master's status in Qingzhou? What is Chu family's status? He actually dared to be so arrogant and make a move against more than 50 rich second generations. How many forces did he offend? Clearing his throat, Jiang Tao decided to show off some of the news he heard. Especially when he saw Zhang Xiaofeng and Yang Fan's curious gazes, he couldn't help but feel a sense of accomplishment. However, when he saw Li Changxing playing with his phone, he felt a blow. The things he was proud of were nothing in front of Li Changxing. This fourth bro is a strange person. Jiang Tao shook his head and threw away all the messy thoughts before he said, this Chu family is the true ruler of Qingzhou. However, following the rise of the Qin family a few years ago, the Chu family's status and reputation dropped a lot. However, a few days ago, the Qin family wanted to dominate Qingzhou, so they arranged a boxing match with the Chu family. They used 9 boxing matches to determine the territory of the entire Qingzhou. I heard that in that boxing match, a mysterious person named Mr. Li appeared out of nowhere and destroyed the Qin family in one fell swoop. Now, the Chu family has absolute control in Qingzhou. And a family like Lin Mo's family's assets are just over 100 million. Those rich second-generation young ladies who play with Lin Mo are also similar to his family background. Such a force is no different from an ant to the Chu family that is currently at its peak. After saying that, seeing Zhang Xiaofeng and Yang Fan's admiring gazes, Jiang Tao's vanity was greatly satisfied. However, when he saw Li Changxing's indifferent appearance, he felt a slight blow. I say, fourth bro, why are you like a block of wood? You don't play games or read gossip. Every day, if you're not running to the library, you're going missing. What? Do you want to learn from that mysterious Mr. Li and hide his achievements and fame? Jiang Tao couldn't help but say, I am Mr. Li. Li Changxing raised his head and smiled. Fourth bro, if you are Mr. Li, then wouldn't our dorm be able to walk sideways in Qingzhou University? Zhang Xiaofeng joked. Not just Qingzhou University, we can even walk sideways in the entire Qingzhou city. Yang Fan added. You guys are right. Unfortunately, fourth bro is not Mr. Li. Jiang Tao shook his head. Suddenly, he remembered something and said, tomorrow is my girlfriend's birthday. We agreed to go to Quzhou City for a day trip. I will take care of all the food, drinks, and entertainment. Okay. As soon as Zhang Xiaofeng heard about the trip, he immediately became spirited. I don't know, can I bring my girlfriend? Yang Fan interrupted. Of course you can, but you have to have her. Jiang Tao's words suddenly made Yang Fan suffer a critical hit of 20 million points. His face became bitter. He pointed to his heart and said, "Bro, my heart hurts. Chongqing, do you want to bring your campus belle girlfriend with you?" Jiang Tao looked at Li Chongqing. His memory of Bai Qianxue was still fresh. The impact she gave them was no less than a magnitude 8 earthquake. Tomorrow was Saturday. Li Chongqing thought for a moment. Yu Yue must have never gone out to play before. So he nodded and said, "Okay, then I will bring my girlfriend." Chapter 102. Li Chongqing called Lu Xiong and told him that he might not be able to tutor Lu Duo this Sunday. He had to go to Chuzhou City for a friend's girlfriend's birthday. Lu Xiong nodded his head and readily agreed. In fact, the so-called tutoring job was to discipline Lu Duo. Ever since he saw Li Chongqing's awesome side, Lu Duo had become a lot more obedient. Lu Xiong was quite satisfied with Li Chongqing's education results overall. Especially subconsciously, he felt that he should be more tolerant of Li Chongqing, because whether it was from Chen Ligua's description or his own observation, he always felt that this young man was not ordinary. After hanging up the phone, he went out to eat breakfast with Jiang Tao and the other two. This time, Jiang Tao also called a few friends, all of whom were in Jiang Tao's circle of friends. When they finished breakfast, they saw several cars waiting at the school gate for a long time. From the mounts of Jiang Tao's friends, one could see the level of Jiang Tao's circle of friends. The best one was an imported Jaguar worth more than 1,000,000 yuan, and the rest were mostly around 500,000 or 600,000 yuan. Although they were all students and the expenses given to them by their families had been reduced, one could see the whole picture with a single glance. It could be seen that their family's net worth was at most a few billion. In Qingzhou, they could not even be considered as a third-tier family. At best, they could only be considered as a fifth-tier rich second generation. However, even if they were fifth-tier rich second generation, in the eyes of ordinary students they still had their own pride. In addition to Jiang Tao's friends, there was naturally the female lead today, Su Ying, as well as Su Ying's best friend, Chen Wan. The only thing that made Jiang Tao a little unhappy was that Zhang Mengmeng actually brought her boyfriend, Shang Jianpain. Everyone knew that Zhang Mengmeng and Li Chongqing almost made a good thing happen. Shang Jianpain's appearance was undoubtedly like adding a piece of mouse feces to a pot of delicious food. Out of the hearts of the people in room 305, who wanted to stand up for Li Chongqing, were a little unhappy. However, since the other party came and handed each of them a Chunghwa cigarette with a smile, they were not bad people. Naturally, they would not put down their faces and say anything unpleasant. Seeing that Jiang Tao did not get angry, Su Ying let out a long sigh of relief. At the same time, she secretly praised Shang Jianpain for being able to handle the situation. As for Li Chongqing, although he had called the school bell, Bai Qianxue, to support him, which had surprised everyone, they still felt that it was a little unreal. Especially when Bai Qianxue entered the room, the unnatural expression on her face made them wonder if Li Chongqing had deliberately found someone to pretend to be his girlfriend to get back at him. Su Ying and the other two girls were not the only ones who had such thoughts. Even Zhang Mengmeng felt the same way. Jiang Tao was still driving his 7 Series BMW. Li Chongqing wasn't familiar with the others, so he naturally sat in Jiang Tao's car. Jiang Tao's girlfriend, Su Ying, sat in the front passenger seat. Originally, Yang Fan also wanted to squeeze in the back seat with Li Chongqing. However, when Li Chongqing said that, "My girlfriend is coming later," he was shocked and ran to sit in Jiang Tao's friend's Land Rover Aurora. Shang Jianpain also drove a car today. It was not flashy, but a domestic Mercedes-Benz E-Class. His family's assets were just right for Jiang Tao's circle. He also had a lot of common topics with Jiang Tao's friends. Not long after, he was already chatting and laughing with everyone. Zhang Mengmeng, Hao Ting, and Chen Wan just sat in Shang Jianping's car. Hearing Li Chongqing say that his girlfriend was coming, Su Ying could not help but turn her head and look at the indifferent man sitting in the back. She thought, could it be the school belle of Yanbei University? If it was Bai Qianxue, then no matter how enchanting they would probably be robbed of the limelight. After waiting for about 10 minutes at the school gate, a taxi stopped on the side of the road. Yu Wei, who had paid the fare, walked over. She was wearing a purple shirt, washed-out jeans, and a pair of white sneakers. Especially when she walked, her ponytail bounced up and down. She looked pure and innocent. The moment she appeared, all of Jiang Tao's friends, regardless of whether they were male or female, were dumbfounded. Even Li Chongqing was a little surprised. Today, Yu Wei was obviously dressed up, especially with a little lipstick on her mouth, which made her look even more beautiful. Li Chongqing couldn't help but sigh. When Fan Li first saw Shi Shi in Westlake, he must have felt the same way. Jiang Tao's friends were all shocked. Some of the rich second generations couldn't help but want to go up and strike up a conversation. However, when the car window rolled down and Yu Wei opened the door and sat in the back seat of the BMW, everyone knew that she was already taken. Chongqing, introduce her to me. Before this, Jiang Tao had always thought that Li Chongqing's girlfriend was Bai Qianxue. At this moment, Yu Wei's appearance undoubtedly gave him a great impact. My girlfriend, Yu Wei. Li Chongqing reached out and hugged Yu Wei's shoulder. Yu Wei didn't feel any discomfort, except for her slightly blushing face. She gently leaned on Li Chongqing's shoulder. Through the rearview mirror, Jiang Tao saw the incomparably sweet couple. Only then did Jiang Tao confirm that this was really Li Chongqing's girlfriend. Since everyone was here, it was time to set off. Along the way, Li Chongqing held a book and read it. The title of the book was The Modern History of the Republic of China. Yu Wei quietly snuggled up to Li Chongqing. Occasionally, she would look at Li Chongqing and massage his legs when he was reading for a long time. She was very docile like a little wife. In the front, Su Ying's expression was extremely complicated. For dorm 305, except for Jiang Tao, she didn't like the others. Especially Li Chongqing, who gave her the first impression that he was ordinary. After several incidents, the most ordinary Li Chongqing always surprised people. And the appearance of Bai Qianxue and Yu Wei was a clear indication of something. To see a man's background and strength, one must first look at the woman beside him. Whether it was Bai Qianxue or Yu Wei, when they appeared beside Li Chongqing, Su Ying couldn't help but reconsider Li Chongqing's value. His ordinary appearance obviously couldn't attract women's hearts, and with his powerful strength, even if Bai Qianxue fell in love with him because of this, Yu Wei wouldn't also fall in love with him. The probability of this was very small. Then, if the factor of Li Chongqing's strength was excluded, then it meant that Li Chongqing must have some advantages that she didn't know about. What was this advantage? Suddenly, Su Ying felt that she couldn't see through Li Chongqing. Thinking back to some time ago when she, Chen Wan, and Hao Ting persuaded Zhang Mengmeng that Li Chongqing wasn't suitable for her, she suddenly thought, was she really doing the right thing? Was Shang Jianping really stronger than Li Chongqing? Would Zhang Mengmeng miss out on something? Chapter 103. It was only a 2-hour journey from Qingzhou City to Chuzhou City. Jiang Tao and the other rich kids had a thirst for excitement in their bones, so they were able to run fast. Of course, these people were quite steady. The fastest they could run was around 180 miles per hour, which was an average of 160 miles per hour. The 2-hour journey on the GPS only took a little more than an hour in reality. In an hour, Li Chongqing had just finished reading a modern history book. He used his mind to sort out the various changes and forces that had happened while he was asleep. When he was thinking about these things, a relationship chart automatically appeared in his mind. When they arrived at Chuzhou City, Jiang Tao said that the son of one of his father's business partners had opened a hotel in Qingzhou City. He had already booked a VIP room in advance. When they arrived at the hotel, a young man came out to greet them. The young man's family was even richer than Jiang Tao's family. However, because Jiang Tao was more easygoing, he didn't put on airs when interacting with others. He wasn't like many people who used their family's wealth to do whatever they wanted. Therefore, they got along quite well. After a while, with the help of their family's business, they became good friends. When the young man heard that Jiang Tao was coming, he turned down a drinking party to welcome them. His name is Han Dong, my friend. Jiang Tao introduced him to Li Changxing. The man named Han Dong looked at Yu Wei, who was sitting next to Li Changxing, with surprise. In this age of plastic surgery, it was rare to see a woman as pure and heart-shaking as Yu Wei. Therefore, Han Dong, who originally thought that Li Changxing was ordinary, couldn't help but be surprised. After all, the story of the young master and the coachman was the real deal. Especially when a woman looked at a man, if he didn't have good looks, he would be an idiot, unless the woman's head was kicked by a donkey. Li Changxing, who was the most ordinary person in the group, became the most important person to Han Dong. When they entered the hotel, the room was already booked. Because they didn't know about Yu Wei's arrival beforehand, they booked an extra room. Originally, with the relationship between Jiang Tao and Han Dong, even if there was no reservation, they could have booked a VIP room of the same quality at any time. He probably wanted to create an opportunity for his good brother, Li Changxing, and at the same time wanted to verify whether Yu Wei was really Li Changxing's girlfriend. Jiang Tao did not add any more rooms, saying that Yu Wei and Li Changxing could only squeeze in. Yu Wei did not object. She simply blushed a little. This scene completely dispelled the suspicions of the crowd. Zhang Mengmeng originally wanted to share a room with Hao Ting, but when she found out that Li Changxing and Yu Wei were sharing a room, she immediately announced that she wanted to share a room with Shang Jianping. This time, Hao Ting could not help but grumble, "What a guy who values women over friends." Yang Fan interrupted at the right time, "Why don't we share a room?" Hao Ting pretended that she wanted to hit him, which caused a burst of laughter. After the room was booked, Han Dong said that he had already prepared a banquet and wanted to invite them to dinner. They were a little hungry after the long journey. Moreover, Han Dong was Jiang Tao's good friend, so they naturally did not refuse. Because today was Su Ying's birthday, Jiang Tao ordered a big 9-layer cake in advance. Yu Wei, who was sitting next to Li Changxing, stared at the cake. Li Changxing asked in a low voice, "Why? If you like it, I can order a bigger one for your birthday." Unexpectedly, Yu Wei shook her head. "No, I'm just thinking that it would be a waste if we don't finish such a big cake." Li Changxing couldn't help but shake his head. Thinking of Yu Wei working in a restaurant for 10 yuan an hour, his eyes couldn't help but soften. Not far away, Chen Wan looked at the two of them and snorted, "I really don't understand why that girl would fall for him. If she likes Li Changxing, it means that she has good taste. Unlike you, you were tricked by that rich kid. If it wasn't for Changxing, do you think you could have escaped unscathed that day?" Jiang Tao had long disliked Chen Wan, so he said coldly, "That's enough." Su Ying pulled Jiang Tao's sleeve. Meanwhile, Han Dong invited Jiang Tao and Su Ying to blow out the candles. After the candles were blown out, the dinner officially began. As the host of the banquet, Han Dong toasted everyone and raised his glass to Li Changxing alone. Li Changxing naturally would not refuse Han Dong's kindness. After toasting with Han Dong did not toast anyone else during the banquet. This made many people confused. After the dinner, Han Dong suggested that everyone visit the Chuzhou city's folk street. During the dinner, Jiang Tao took some time to ask Han Dong why he liked Li Changxing so much. Han Dong cracked a smile and said, "I have a feeling that your friend is not ordinary." Thinking of Li Changxing's powerful fighting ability, Jiang Tao nodded in agreement. "Indeed, you have good taste. What he didn't know was that Han Dong didn't like Li Changxing because of Li Changxing's fighting ability. Instead, it was because of his keen observation skills that he noticed that Li Changxing was different from the rest. Back then, the Han family had relied on their keen foresight to curry favor with a nobleman to achieve their current status. Han Dong had inherited his father's personality and had been searching for a benefactor for the past few years. Ever since he saw Yu Yue sitting next to Li Changxing, Han Dong had an idea in his mind. Maybe if he could build a good relationship with Li Changxing, he would be able to replicate his father's legend and bring the Han family to a higher level. Especially when he toasted Li Changxing, Li Changxing's indifferent expression told him that he was a low-key figure. Han Dong couldn't tell how important Li Changxing was. The few of them went to the folk street. Under Jiang Tao's instruction, Han Dong called 2 girls to accompany Zhang Xiaofeng and Yang Fan. Although Zhang Xiaofeng had a girlfriend, he didn't bring her with him. As for Yang Fan, Jiang Tao could tell that both Hao Ting and Chen Wan were arrogant women. Yang Fan was not worthy of their attention. With that thought in mind, he couldn't help but glance at Li Changxing, who was telling Yu Yue a story. He thought to himself, if everyone in room 305 was as powerful as Li Changxing, I wouldn't have to worry so much about Yang Fan and Chen Wan. This 4th brother was usually quiet, but when he made a move, it would be extraordinary. Jiang Tao was pondering whether he should learn from Li Changxing and learn from him how he managed to make the 2 school beauties so loyal to him. Fickleness had always been in the blood of the rich 2nd generation. Jiang Tao might have brought Su Ying to Chuzhou City and celebrated her birthday with her, but if he wanted to be truly devoted to Su Ying and marry no one but her, then there was no real love between them. Those were only words he used to fool Su Ying. It was normal for the rich 2nd generation to operate on 2 or more fronts. Su Ying knew this, but there were always people who naively thought that they could turn the prodigal son around and become the prodigal son's last haven. Chapter 104. Chuzhou City's folk street had existed since the Qing dynasty and had a history of over 200 years. As the group strolled down the street, Li Changxing bought a red bracelet for Yu Yue. Her slender arms and snow-white skin were accentuated by the red bracelet, giving her a unique sense of beauty. The stall owner said that the bracelet was from the Republic of China and asked for 3,000 RMB. Li Changxing bargained with him for 1,000 RMB. In the end, the stall owner reluctantly agreed. In fact, Li Changxing knew that the bracelet's true value was not even 300 RMB. However, Yu Yue happened to like it. Even if the stall owner didn't give him a discount, Li Changxing would have bought it for 3,000 RMB without hesitation. Yu Yue, who received the bracelet, was very happy. Her smile was like a blooming flower, making the other rich 2nd generation heirs envious. It was already afternoon when they returned to the hotel after shopping. The group of men gathered in a room to play cards. Since they were all rich men, they naturally couldn't afford a few hundred RMB. Li Changxing didn't play with them. Instead, he and Yu Yue worked on the computer in the room. Yu Yue had never been to an internet cafe before. Her family couldn't afford to buy her a computer, so everything on the internet was new and interesting. As for Li Changxing, although he knew a lot about modern technology after his rebirth, he was still very excited when he browsed the internet. This made the few people present involuntarily recall the days when the internet had just emerged. Society was afraid of the internet, and those who were addicted to the internet were called internet addicts. There were also rehab centers. Most people in the country saw the new technology as a scourge. However, when they truly understood it, they slowly began to accept it. Now that the internet had entered everyone's homes, the fear of the past was even more laughable. However, Li Changxing and Yu Yue now looked like internet addicts. Seeing all of this, Han Dong couldn't help but feel confused. he started to doubt his judgment of Li Changsheng. If Li Changsheng was really a big shot, how could he find computers so novel? I once heard from my dad that there were many hermit families in China. They were old-fashioned, conservative, and even adhered to the style of the Tang and Song dynasties. Before the children of the family reached adulthood, they received a completely feudal education. They were not allowed to come in contact with the waves of ideas and new things from the outside world. Only when they reached adulthood would they be allowed to go out and explore. Although these families were conservative and stubborn in terms of ideology, there was no doubt that they had survived through the dynasties and had huge financial resources and power. If he's not a poor boy from the countryside who hasn't seen much of the world, then he's a disciple of a hidden family. It's just that these two possibilities are equally likely. Han Dong thought to himself. This kind of hidden family's disciples were as rare as phoenix feathers and Qilin horns. Could it be that he had bumped into one? Thinking of the various histories that Li Changsheng had explained to Yu Wei when they were shopping in the antique street, it seemed that this possibility was very high. It was not impossible. After browsing the web for a while, Li Changsheng saw his girlfriend, Yu Wei, who was in high spirits. Li Changsheng gave the computer to her and let her play, while he sat on the bed and flipped through several magazines that the hotel provided for guests to pass the time. On the other side, a few people were making a ruckus while Li Changsheng was watching with great interest. Even though Chen Wan scolded him for being pretentious, she still admired his ability to find peace in the midst of chaos. Time always passed very quickly when one was playing. Li Changsheng had finished reading the magazines on the table and stretched himself. At this time, Yu Wei stood up and took the initiative to make a pot of tea for Li Changsheng. She then gently massaged his shoulders. When this scene fell into the eyes of everyone present, they couldn't help but admire Li Changsheng like a torrential river. Apart from Zhang Xiaofeng, Yang Fan, and Li Changsheng, the rest of the people present were all rich second-generation heirs. They had had many girlfriends, but none of them were as beautiful and gentle as Yu Wei. No matter how hard they thought about it, they couldn't find anyone like her. Jiang Tao introduced Li Changsheng's valiant deeds while playing cards. Listening to this, his friends were in high spirits and revealed a trace of surprise in their eyes. They didn't expect that the ordinary-looking and thin Li Changsheng was actually a martial artist. There was even a rich second generation who threatened to take Li Changsheng as his master, but most of them were just joking. In the eyes of these people, they couldn't plan anything. Which one of them didn't have a few bodyguards at home? Especially Jiang Tao, although his saliva was flying everywhere, everyone felt that it was somewhat unreal. This guy who was smiling all the way, was he really as mysterious and fierce as he said? On the other side, Chen Wan and the other girls' faces became uglier and uglier as Jiang Tao talked about the bar, which was tantamount to exposing their scars. Zhang Mengmeng also felt somewhat complicated, especially when she saw the docile Yu Wei beside Li Changsheng. She didn't know what to feel in her heart, but she felt somewhat lost and sad. Shang Jianping couldn't listen anymore and interrupted Jiang Tao's narration. After offending those people, I'm afraid that they will take revenge. As soon as these words came out, Jiang Tao immediately shut his mouth. Indeed, he had been talking about Li Changsheng's bravery, but how could he not know that the people that Li Changsheng offended weren't easy to deal with? Although the most powerful Qin Hao and his son fell in Qingzhou, there was still Situnan, brother Xiong, and the others. Yu Wei, who was massaging Li Changsheng's legs and shoulders, was actually listening to Jiang Tao's narration. In the end, she was interrupted by Shang Jianping. She couldn't help but frown and her eyes revealed some dissatisfaction. Do you have the urge to beat him up? Li Changsheng crawled to Yu Wei's ear and quietly asked. Yu Wei couldn't help but cover her mouth and chuckle. These past few days, Yu Wei had been thinking about Li Changsheng's background. She knew that Li Changsheng was definitely not an ordinary person. Chu Yaotian could guess some clues from Su Xiaolin, who surrounded Li Changxing. And Li Changxing's low-key personality made Yu Wei redefine the words, rich second generation. However, Li Changxing didn't take the initiative to tell her what identity Li Changxing had, and she also wouldn't ask. She knew that if Li Changxing really wanted her to know, he would naturally tell her. She used to be like an ordinary woman, fantasizing that one day she would meet her Prince Charming, who was sunny, handsome, and of high quality. However, when Li Changxing saved her from the KTV and fought for her, she knew in her heart that even the most handsome Prince Charming in the world couldn't compare to the figure in front of her. "What are you thinking about?" Li Changxing waved his finger in front of Yu Wei's eyes. Yu Wei finally reacted from her daze and couldn't help but blush. It was said that a woman was the most beautiful when she was shy. At this moment, her blushing cheeks made Li Changxing's heart tremble slightly. At this moment, he felt that she was very similar to the woman in red who had fallen in front of him. Chapter 105. Changxing, do you want to play around? Jiang Tao said to Li Changxing. No, I don't know how to play. Li Changxing cracked a smile. Chen Wan, who was sitting next to him, murmured, maybe he doesn't have enough money to play. Jiang Tao glared at Chen Wan and shut her mouth. In fact, Chen Wan was not the only one who thought so. Many people in the room also thought so. After all, not everyone was as observant as Han Dong, and not everyone was like Jiang Tao, who could play with anyone regardless of their social status. It's so hot in the room. Do you want some ice cream? Yu Wei and Li Changxing were sitting near the window. The wind blowing in from the outside was hot, and the air conditioner was on. Sure. Li Changxing nodded. Yu Wei then turned around and walked out of the room. What a virtuous girl! Many people in the room exclaimed. At the same time, they looked at Li Changxing with admiration. He couldn't figure out what methods he had used to train this girl to be so sensible and well-behaved. After Yu Wei left, Li Changxing started to play computer games. Han Dong suggested that they go to a nightclub after dinner. The nightclubs in Chuzhou City were much more interesting than those in Qingzhou City. Shang Jianping chimed in. I have a friend who owns a bar. He recently invited a famous DJ band from abroad. The bar is very popular every night. Why don't we go there and have some fun? As soon as he said that, many people in the room looked at him in a different light. Shang Jianping's family lived in Qingzhou City, and he had connections in Chuzhou City. This also showed the power of his family. Even Han Dong couldn't help but think more about him. Zhang Mengmeng, on the other hand, was sincerely happy for her boyfriend. After all, it was obvious that Jiang Tao and the others didn't like him. Moreover, most of their attention was attracted by Li Changxing and Yu Wei. Zhang Mengmeng, who had been holding back her anger, finally felt that her boyfriend had found some sense of existence. Yu Wei came back after buying ice cream. She was carrying 2 big bags of food in her hands, and it was difficult for her to walk. In addition to the hot weather, she was already sweating profusely. When she walked through the door, she was panting. Her delicate body made people want to protect her. Li Changxing looked at Yu Wei, who was wiping away her sweat with a sweet smile on her face, and couldn't help but feel his heart ache. Are you tired? Li Changxing helped Yu Wei wipe the sweat off her forehead. Yu Wei had already started distributing ice cream to everyone present. Everyone had a stick of ice cream with different flavors. Of course, Yu Wei was chosen by Li Changxing first. After everyone was done, Yu Wei returned to Li Changxing's side and sat down. When Li Changxing passed her share of ice cream, she revealed a sweet smile and was as happy as a child. When everyone saw this scene, they all sighed in their hearts. If only they had a girlfriend like her. They would be willing to hold her in their hands every day. Li Changxing, do you know how to dance on QQ? Chen Wan wasn't interested in Golden Flower. She took out her laptop from her bag and logged into the game. Then, as if she was showing off, she danced to an 8-star difficulty song. Her fingers tapped on the keyboard very skillfully, attracting the attention of a few girls. This is relatively simple. Li Chongqing smiled. It was just relying on hand speed and eye coordination. For Li Chongqing, this wasn't difficult at all. However, in Chen Wan's ears, it was very different. Humph. So you also know how to play? Do you want to play around? I don't have an account. You can lend me one. Let's play. Li Chongqing was bored anyway, so he became a little interested. Chen Wan gave Hao Ting a look, so Hao Ting went over and logged into her account. Then, she opened a room and started the game. Yu Yue just sat there quietly. She didn't know anything about computers, but she was inexplicably confident in Li Chongqing. It was Li Chongqing's first time playing this game, so his hand speed wasn't very good. He made a lot of mistakes in the 8-star song, but after a few seconds, he quickly got rid of his newbie status. The character on the screen danced dazzlingly. In the end, his score was even higher than Chen Wan's, which made Chen Wan feel quite shocked. Are you pretending to be a pig to eat a tiger? Pretending that you haven't played before? Only a ghost would believe you. Li Chongqing smiled. He couldn't be bothered to argue with her. He pushed the keyboard away. He felt that this game had no other use other than to kill time. However, Chen Wan was unwilling to let it go. If you're so good, play a 10-star difficulty game. Alright, if you lose, you'll have to shut up for an hour because you're really annoying, Li Chongqing said. However, Chen Wan was so angry that she almost smashed the keyboard. She nodded. Alright, if you lose, go back to Qingzhou immediately. I don't want to see you for a second. Chen Wan was also angry. It's a deal. Li Chongqing nodded. After Chen Wan chose a song to start the game, his fingers started tapping on the keyboard. This time, he chose the 10-star difficulty Narcissus. The music bar flashed very quickly. Even though Chen Wan played it often, her hand speed couldn't keep up. She could only give up when the music bar was slightly longer. On the other hand, Li Chongqing was like a cheat. His fingers were extremely fast. Most importantly, together with the music on the computer, it created a rhythmic beauty. Even the few people who were playing Golden Flower stopped what they were doing and looked at Li Chongqing. They felt that Li Chongqing's tapping on the keyboard was very pleasing to the eye. Li Chongqing, who didn't make any mistakes from the beginning to the end, won in the end. Chen Wan was completely dumbfounded. She wondered how there could be such a monster in the world. She felt humiliated as if she had been raped. Li Chongqing, you're obviously bullying my Chen Wan on purpose. You said that it's your first time playing. Are you trying to fool a ghost? Suing said half-jokingly. Ever since Yu Yue appeared, her attitude towards Li Chongqing had changed drastically. Chongqing, drink some water. Yu Yue handed Li Chongqing a cup of tea. Her virtuous action attracted another wave of envy. Chen Wan put away the computer in a fit of pique and sat there playing with her phone. Everyone's attention was once again attracted by Li Chongqing. Shang Jianpain, who had just found some sense of existence, couldn't help but look a little embarrassed. Zhang Mengmeng was even more silent. There's a billiard hall on the top floor with red wine and coffee. Do you want to experience it? Han Dong asked with a smile. Sure. Yang Fan was the first to raise his hand to agree. I'm not bragging, but I'm known as a professional player in the field of billiard. I haven't been defeated since I was in elementary school. Yang Fan tidied up his slicked back hair and said excitedly. Really? Why don't I believe it? Hao Ting said. She had become familiar with Yang Fan after meeting him a few times. Although she felt that Yang Fan didn't meet her standards for a partner, she could still make a few jokes and flirt with him. It was not only the privilege of boys to have a foot in several boats. It was also a girl's specialty to flirt with a spare tire. In Hao Ting's eyes, Yang Fan was not even a spare tire. At most, he was just a tool to pass the time. Chapter 106. The highest floor of the hotel was the entertainment center for the guests to play and relax. After going up, Chen Wan and the others each ordered a glass of red wine, while Yu Wei only ordered a cup of milk tea. In the billiard hall, Yang Fan, who was known to be invincible, indeed showed his extraordinary level. He won 3 games in a row. The most important thing was that the girls who played against him were not very familiar with billiard. Especially Chen Wan, as if it was her first time playing billiard, the balls would run all over the table, and she would only get 1 ball after 7 or 8 shots. "I'll do it." Shang Jianping stood up and played against Yang Fan. This rich second-generation heir, who had been quite good at socializing, was also very good at playing basketball. Unfortunately, Yang Fan had deliberately held back a few moves in the previous few games because his strength was not proportional to his opponent. At this moment, he was determined to show the prestige of room 305, and his accuracy was frighteningly high. Even though Shang Jianping struggled to hold on, the game ended when the black ball fell into the pocket after 10 minutes. "How about it? You rich second generation are just embroidered pillows. Now you know how powerful I am as the king of amateurs?" Yang Fan was very pleased with himself. He had the intention of showing off in front of Hao Ting. However, this sentence also made many people unhappy. After all, most of the people present were rich second generation. His sentence was equivalent to including everyone. "I'll play with you." Zhang Mengmeng, who couldn't stand her boyfriend being ridiculed, stood up with some intention of fighting for justice. She was a typical beauty with a childish face, attracting the attention of many men around her. "Yang Fan, our Mengmeng is hiding her strength. Just wait for you to kneel down and sing, conquer." Hao Ting said half-jokingly. Yang Fan didn't care and directly started the game. Zhang Mengmeng also had a fierce look on her face. Although the fierce look of a beauty like her also had some beauty, she was indeed a master. She actually suppressed Yang Fan to the point that he couldn't breathe in less than a minute after the game started. Yang Fan, who was bragging, had a dense sweat on his forehead. The final result was obvious. Zhang Mengmeng won with an advantage, and Yang Fan was defeated miserably. Zhang Xiaofeng and Jiang Tao were originally eager to give it a try, but after seeing Yang Fan lose, especially after witnessing Zhang Mengmeng's powerful skills, they finally gave up on the idea. Li Chongqing, on the other hand, did not pay attention to the match. Instead, he was teaching Yu Wei how to play basketball. He only needed to take a few glances to understand the game of billiard. As for the way to play, after watching Yang Fan's performance in the first round, he had already completely grasped it. In particular, he even designed Yu Wei's unique playing posture according to her height and strength. Standing behind Yu Wei, he grabbed her wrist with one hand and adjusted the angle of the club with the other hand. He also explained what kind of strength should be used to hit the ball. Yu Wei's cheeks blushed as their bodies inevitably pressed against each other. The surrounding people also cast envious gazes. How was this teaching? This was clearly flirting in public. On the other side, Zhang Mengmeng, who was lonely at the top, was facing an awkward situation where no one dared to play with her. After all, no one played billiards for fun. Just then, he saw Li Chongqing and Yi Qingyu not far away. The complacency on his face disappeared, and was replaced by a kind of nameless anger. "Hey Li Chongqing, you seem to be quite professional. Do you dare to play with me?" Zhang Mengmeng suddenly opened her mouth. Hearing the voice, Li Chongqing turned around and shook his head. "I don't have time. I have to teach my girlfriend how to play." "I think you don't dare." Chen Wan, who was next to him, said loudly. She had lost to Li Chongqing in Dazzle Dance. She was still holding a grudge in her heart. "Your level is too low. You can't arouse my interest." Li Chongqing shook his head. On the other hand, Chen Wan was so angry that she clenched her teeth. This sentence did not include her as well. At that time, she had also said the same bold and visionary words, but she had lost to Li Chongqing. This was simply a slap to the face. Chen Wan took out her wallet, unzipped it, took out a stack of money, and put it on the billiard table. Didn't you work in the bar to earn pocket money? Here is 3,000 yuan, which is enough for you to earn a month's salary in the bar. How about it? This lady has money. You play with Mingming. If you lose, I will give you the money for your hard work. If you win, I will double it. Chen Wan's words shocked several people in the field. This was obviously humiliating. Chen Wan, what do you mean? Jiang Tao's face immediately became gloomy. Even Su Ying furrowed her brows. Chen Wan, you are going too far. The other rich second generation looked playful. They were not so familiar with Li Chongqing and were happy to watch the fun. After all, today's limelight was stolen by Li Chongqing. They wanted to see how this guy, who had nothing but a beauty, would face such a scene. Double is only 6,000 yuan. How can it be enough? Li Chongqing shrugged his shoulders. If you take out 30,000 yuan, I can consider it. Chen Wan's eyes were about to spurt fire. She was not a rich second-generation heiress. When she said $6,000, it was out of her trust in Zhang Mingming. She felt that she would definitely win. It was impossible for her to fork out $30,000. However, she felt uncomfortable if she did not vent her anger. When she was angry, Zhang Jianping suddenly said, "It's okay. I will take out 30,000 yuan. Chen Wan's face suddenly showed a complacent look. Li Chongqing, did you hear that? If you lose, 3,000 yuan is yours. If you win, 30,000 yuan is yours. Do you dare to play? Chen Wan can take out 30,000 yuan, but you have to take out 100,000 yuan. Li Chongqing said lightly. Suddenly, it caused an uproar. Many people in the surroundings also gathered around. They had never seen billiards that cost 100,000 yuan per round. This time, without waiting for Zhang Jianping to speak, Zhang Mingming said, "Okay, 100,000 yuan it is. What you said doesn't count." Li Chongqing still looked at Zhang Jianping. Even Zhang Jianping felt the pinch when he took out 100,000 yuan. But when he saw Zhang Mingming's gaze, he immediately nodded. 100,000 yuan then. Okay. Li Chongqing smiled. 100,000 yuan per round. I can make your Shang family bankrupt. Seeing Li Chongqing's confident appearance, Chen Wan was unable to vent her anger. Even Zhang Jianping's face was very gloomy. I know Mingming's billiard skills. Li Chongqing, I'm afraid you have never seen 100,000 yuan in your life. You can see it today. But you can only see it because you will lose without a doubt. Remember to take 3,000 yuan if you lose. Be more humble in the future. This world is not a place where any Tom, Dick, or Harry can pretend to be rich. Her tone was very unfriendly, with a strong smell of gunpowder. The corners of Li Chongqing's mouth curled up as he said, "Let's begin." Chapter 107. Zhang Mingming wiped the cue stick and bent down. Her hot figure suddenly appeared. She wasn't wearing gloves. Her hands, which were placed on the table, were chubby and had some baby fat. Her hands were as tender as jade, and her nails were manicured with plum blossom patterns. Especially standing in front of her, one could catch a glimpse of her full breasts from her collar. Watching her play was a visual feast. Zhang Mingming was as sharp as ever. After the start, she scored 6 balls in a row. She seemed to have won half of the game. The people who originally hoped that Li Chongqing could win against Yang Fan and the others were disheartened when they saw the situation. Even Yu Youwei's heart was in her mouth. "It's your turn." Zhang Mingming crossed the cue stick in front of her chest with a cold face. Li Chongqing, on the other hand, was in no hurry. He circled the table again and even pointed, as if he was calculating the angle. When everyone began to feel a little impatient and thought that he was deliberately stalling for time, knowing that he would lose, he began to play. The result made everyone stare with wide eyes. All 8 balls went into the hole. It was a perfect move to determine the winner. It was too amazing. Li Chongqing did not give Zhang Mengmeng the slightest chance from the beginning to the black ball in the pocket. He ended the game cleanly like the autumn wind sweeping the fallen leaves. Zhang Mengmeng stared at Li Chongqing and was tongue-tied. She had always been very confident in her billiard skills, but at this moment she was beaten black and blue. There was always someone better than her. She was defeated just like that. Li Chongqing reached out to Shang Jianping and said, "Give me the money." Shang Jianping's face was a little ugly. Although 100,000 yuan made his heart ache, he could still afford to lose it. But with so many people watching, it made him lose face. Finally, he wrote a check and slapped it on the table. Li Chongqing signaled Yu Yue to put it away. He had originally planned to give the 100,000 renminbi to Yu Yue. Yu Yue's family was poor, but if Li Chongqing gave it to her out of his own pocket, she would definitely not accept it. However, the nature of the money won was completely different. After receiving the 100,000 yuan check, Li Chongqing casually picked up the 3,000 yuan that Chen Wan took out and waved at the waiter who was in charge of setting up the ball. When the waiter came over, he handed it to him and said, "Here's your tip." The waiter looked at the stack of money and was dumbfounded. He glanced at his boss, Han Dong, who was standing beside him. After seeing Han Dong nod his head, he was overwhelmed by the favor and kept bowing to Li Chongqing to thank him. Li Chongqing nodded slightly, then placed the cue stick on the table and continued to teach Yu Yue how to play billiards. At this moment, Zhang Mengmeng suddenly said, "Let's have another round. I'll offer another 100,000. She was not convinced. Gambling had always been human nature, regardless of gender or age. Li Chongqing did not speak. Zhang Mengmeng gritted her teeth and said, 300,000. As she spoke, she turned to look at her boyfriend, Shang Jianping. Shang Jianping's face was a little ugly. Although his family was rich, it was not to the point where he did not care about a few 100,000. Especially now that he was still a student, his monthly living expenses were limited. 300,000 was enough to do a lot of things. You're willing to offer 300,000, but I'm afraid your boyfriend can't afford it, Li Chongqing said lightly, obviously trying to provoke Shang Jianping. However, Shang Jianping gritted his teeth in the end. Okay, 300,000 it is. This time, Li Chongqing started first. The result was even more devastating. From the start to the end of the game, he had a hole in one shot. He did not give Zhang Mengmeng a chance to make a move. Crushing, it was a crushing without any suspense. Li Chongqing won the second round in a carefree manner, with an aggressive momentum. It made Zhang Mengmeng feel a sense of sadness and desolation. Shang Jianping's face was even uglier. Even a professional player would not be able to reach such a level. Again. Zhang Mengmeng spat out these 2 words with difficulty, her eyes flashing fiercely. Watching Li Chongqing play was undoubtedly a very pleasing thing to the eyes, but that was only for the spectators. For Zhang Mengmeng and Shang Jianping, every shot was like a battle. They had already lost 400,000, which was already the limit Shang Jianping could bear. If he lost any more, it would hurt him. However, looking at Zhang Mengmeng's appearance, Li Chongqing smiled faintly. In the end, he gritted his teeth and nodded. This time, it was still Li Chongqing's first shot, but what was even more shocking was that Li Chongqing took a deep breath, circled around the billiard table a few times, and then suddenly hit the ball. The putt was clean and neat, and the sound was even more pleasant to the ear. The billiard balls on the table kept colliding under the huge inertia, and then the colorful balls fell into the bag one by one. Including the black ball, there were 8 balls, no more, no less, and all of them went into the hole in one putt. The result was in front of everyone. Zhang Mengmeng no longer had the courage to set the ball, and Shang Jianping clenched his fist. Sorry, I also want to keep a low profile, but my strength does not allow me to do so. Li Chongqing smiled slightly, obviously with a bit of arrogance. Do you only know how to bully us? Chen Wan said coldly. Although she said so, in her heart, she was shocked by Li Chongqing's strength. It was simply inconceivable that a person could play billiards to such a degree. Then, Li Chongqing did not make any more shots, but other people were interested. They all wanted to imitate Li Chongqing's way of winning the game. Of course, the seemingly simple shot contained Li Chongqing's various formulas and calculations, as well as the angle of play and the control of strength to the point of minute detail. Combining theory and operation into one, it was not something that a normal human could do. The more proficient one was in billiard, the more they understood how awesome Li Chongqing's skills were. This is a check for 300,000 yuan. This time, without Li Chongqing taking the initiative to speak, Shang Jianping handed a check to Li Chongqing. Li Chongqing took it without hesitation and continued to let Yu Wei keep it. Yu Wei's heart was thumping. 2 checks for 300,000 yuan, 1 for 100,000 yuan, added up to 700,000 yuan. This was a number that she did not dare to think about before, but Li Chongqing let her keep it. Aren't you afraid that I will pocket the check? Yu Wei asked with a smile. No, because this is originally for you. Li Chongqing scratched her nose. As for Shang Jianping, who was standing next to him, he completely regarded him as heir. I'm afraid that some money will burn my hands, Shang Jianping said coldly. Li Chongqing raised his head and gently glanced at his face, without saying anything. At that moment, Shang Jianping's heart suddenly trembled, and he had an illusion that he was being stared at by a beast. He suddenly regretted that he was too impulsive to say those words just now. This feeling was fleeting. He wondered if he had an illusion, but he subconsciously walked back to Zhang Mengming's side, away from Li Chongqing. Chapter 108. Yu Wei's ability to learn was very strong. Under Li Chongqing's guidance, she soon learned how to play billiards. Although she looked decent, in fact, it was because of her diligence and hard work. Li Chongqing was trying to integrate into his identity as a student, while Yu Wei was trying to integrate into Li Chongqing's world. I'll go to the bathroom first, Yu Wei said softly to Li Chongqing. Li Chongqing nodded slightly. On the other side, seeing that Li Chongqing was idle, Jiang Tao and the others finally had the opportunity to ask Li Chongqing about his billiard skills. After all, although it was just an entertainment activity, if they could win in front of their friends, they would feel excited just thinking about it. After coming out of the bathroom, Yu Wei stood in front of the mirror and washed her face. For her natural beauty, she didn't need to wear makeup, so she naturally didn't worry that the water would ruin her makeup, let alone touch up her makeup in front of the mirror. She just looked at herself in the mirror in a daze. That day at the KTV, when Li Chongqing stood up for her when she was in despair, it left a deep impression on her. Later, after the incident at the hotel, and today, when Li Chongqing once again showed his ability, Yu Wei discovered something that others didn't. Whether it was QQ dancing or billiards, she discovered that Li Chongqing actually didn't come into contact with these two before, yet he was able to play more skillfully than those who had excellent experience. Then, thinking of the problem solving in front of the classroom and the drawing on the blackboard, she couldn't help but think of 2 words: monster. Li Chongqing's IQ had definitely reached an incredible level. Even Yu Wei, who had always been the top student in her grade since childhood, still felt that it was unattainable in her field of IQ, which she was most confident in. The more he learned about Li Chongqing, the more mysterious and magical he felt. Wiping her wet face with a tissue, Yu Wei was just about to turn around and leave when she saw a guy with a big belly suddenly reaching out to touch her body with a sinister smile in his eyes. Coincidentally, she raised her head and saw his actions in the mirror. Yu Wei was so frightened that she screamed and dodged his big hand. In the next moment, the greasy man did not seem embarrassed at being seen through. Instead, he took another step forward and pounced on Yu Wei. It was obvious that he had drunk a lot. At such a close distance, Yu Wei could smell the pungent smell of alcohol on his body. Alcohol could numb a person's nerves, but at the same time, it could also magnify a person's desires and emotions. This man was clearly a little crazy at this moment. Panicking, Yu Wei grabbed the trash can under the sink and threw it at her head. The trash can didn't have much lethality, but the pile of tissues, chewing gum, and other random things inside scattered all over the man's face. The man instantly flew into a rage out of humiliation. His eyes turned red as he reached out to strangle Yu Wei. His heavy breathing and bloodshot eyes showed that he had completely lost his mind. However, in the end, he was unable to get close to Yu Wei. When he was less than 10 centimeters away from Yu Wei's body, he couldn't move an inch forward. Li Chongqing rushed over when he heard the scream. He grabbed the man's collar from behind and pulled him back. The man fell to the ground with a plop sound. Because he was drunk, his brain wasn't very sharp. When he saw that a skinny guy dared to touch him, he opened his mouth and wanted to curse. However, Li Chongqing didn't give him the chance. He grabbed the empty trash can that Yu Wei had thrown out and placed it directly on the man's head. Then, he viciously stomped on the man's head. Bang! With a heavy sound, the man's body, which weighed more than 200 kilograms, drew a mark on the ground and directly hit the corner of the wall. The trash can was kicked to pieces, revealing a face covered in blood. The plastic pieces were pierced into the man's skin by the force of the foot, causing him to scream in pain. Jiang Tao and the others, who rushed over, were shocked by Li Chongqing's fierce actions. Yu Wei hid behind Li Chongqing. As long as this man was in front of her, even if the sky fell, she would be able to feel at ease. Seeing the fatty's bloody face, Zhang Mengmeng and Shang Jianping, who rushed over, couldn't help but twitch their eyelids. Although these rich second-generation young masters liked to bully people and had been involved in many fights since they were young, such a fierce fighting style still shocked them. Jiang Tao and the others weren't the only ones who rushed over. There were also a few middle-aged men who were in the same group as the guy that Li Chongqing had knocked down. They were also fat. One of them, who was 1.8 meters tall, cursed, F***ck your mother. Relying on his height and strength, coupled with a bit of alcohol, he directly rushed over. Although the remaining few were in a bit of a crisis, they also rushed over to save face. Plus, there were people in the front line. There were a total of 6 people. If not for their somewhat clumsy movements, just in terms of body size, they would definitely be oppressive. However, when Li Chongqing used a high whip kick to knock the 1.8-meter-tall guy to the ground, the remaining 5 guys didn't even have a chance to react before they were all knocked to the ground. Jiang Tao and the others were simply dazzled by Li Chongqing's actions. It didn't look like a fight, but more like a visual performance. Li Chongqing went over and took down the trash can on top of the fatty's head. Then, he pulled the fatty's curly hair to the center and fiercely stomped on it a few times. The few girls were so scared that they closed their eyes. It was too bloody and violent. However, this wasn't the end. Under Li Chongqing's threat, including the guy who had harassed Yu Wei, a total of 7 people all knelt in a row, took off their clothes, and continuously slapped themselves in the face. The 1.8-meter-tall guy originally wanted to resist, but when Li Chongqing didn't hesitate to pick up the fire extinguisher next to him and smash it on his head, the others didn't wait for orders and began to slap him in the face. Moreover, the slap was especially loud. "Chongqing, I think that's enough. Send that guy to the hospital. It won't be good if things get out of hand. Han Dong finally stood up. After all, they were in his hotel and he had to consider the consequences. Moreover, these fat guys didn't look like ordinary people. Okay. Li Chongqing nodded. He did this purely to vent for Yu Wei. On the other side, Yu Wei didn't show a frightened expression like the other girls. Instead, she even had a faint smile on her face. Aren't you afraid? After leaving the bathroom, Li Chongqing asked doubtfully. Yu Wei shook her head. No, I think you're cool. Underwear or pants? Li Chongqing blinked and said. Yu Wei's tender cheeks were suddenly covered with a red glow. Chapter 109. Li Chongqing, your battle prowess is truly formidable. The rich heirs were all excited. Although they weren't close to Li Chongqing, they were still happy to see Li Chongqing's power. Chen Wan and the others had mixed feelings. This was not the first time that Li Chongqing had displayed his powerful martial strength in front of them. Although they disdained martial strength, they had to admit in their hearts that at critical moments, especially in the face of an emergency, martial strength could often play a key role. However, Han Dong's face was filled with worry. What's wrong? Jiang Tao and Han Dong were very close. Jiang Tao's relationship with Han Dong was much better than his relationship with the others in the room, including the people in room 305. After all, he had known Han Dong for a long time, but he had only known Yang Fan and Zhang Xiaofeng for a month. As for Li Chongqing, he had known him for less than a month. Those people are not simple people. I'm afraid they will seek revenge. I just asked around and one of them is very powerful in Chuzhou City. Even you can't deal with them? Jiang Tao furrowed his brows. He knew how powerful his friend was in Chuzhou City. If even he found it difficult to deal with them, then Li Chongqing would be in trouble. Han Dong shook his head. I don't have enough influence, unless my dad gets involved. But even if my dad does, he will have to use his connections. At this point, Han Dong didn't continue. Jiang Tao understood. If Han Dong used his connections for his family, it wouldn't be a big deal. However, if it was for someone unrelated, then it wouldn't be worth it. After all, Li Chongqing wasn't powerful enough for him to use his connections. Hearing Han Dong's words, the excitement on the rich heirs' faces faded away. They were only rich second-generation heirs in Qingzhou City, and they didn't know anyone in Chuzhou City. If even the local tyrant Han Dong had said so, then the situation was not optimistic at all. Chongqing, you are in trouble this time, Jiang Tao said with a worried face. Although Shang Jianpain tried his best to control himself, there was a gloating look on his face. Who asked you to show off? Chen Wan snorted and sneered again and again. Jiang Tao glared at her, but she didn't restrain herself. Zhang Mingming's expression was complicated, but there was a hint of pleasure in her eyes. Li Chongqing won 3 rounds in a row and took away more than 700,000 yuan. Now, her hatred for Li Chongqing was overflowing. No one else said anything. One of the rich kids said, Li Chongqing, I think you should run away quickly. When they come and see that you're not here, they won't make things difficult for us. The meaning of his words was very clear. If Li Chongqing continued to stay here, it was very likely that he would implicate them. That's right, Chongqing. If you can't do it, just run. Jiang Tao took out his car keys. I'll drive you back to Qingzhou now. To his surprise, Han Dong smiled bitterly. I'm afraid it's too late to run now. What do you mean? Everyone was stunned. Then, they heard a burst of hurried footsteps and a group of people rushed out of the elevator. There were more than 30 people and they were mighty. The leader was the fat guy who flirted with Yu Wei. His head was wrapped in a layer of gauze and he looked fierce. However, when he walked, he was limping. Obviously, he was badly injured. After he was beaten by Li Chongqing, He didn't even stay in the hospital. Instead, he gathered people to take revenge. Especially when he looked so aggressive at the moment, it was obvious that he had completely sobered up. What should we do? Li Chongqing's people were at a loss. They were all foreigners and came to other people's territory. They couldn't use their connections at all. How could they not feel guilty? It's all your fault, you jinx. You've implicated us. Chen Wan shouted loudly. Although the others didn't say anything, they took the initiative to distance themselves from Li Chongqing. Obviously, they had the same idea as Chen Wan. Except for Jiang Tao, who looked worried, only Zhang Xiaofeng and Yang Fan didn't show any resentment. However, they were trembling all over. Obviously, they were very frightened at the moment. Yu Wei, on the other hand, stood firmly beside Li Chongqing. Judging from her stubborn look, it was clear that she had made up her mind to stand together with Li Chongqing. You guys go into the room and hide. Let me deal with them. As soon as Li Chongqing spoke, the people who were a little afraid of losing face immediately nodded. A few rich second generations shouted, Chongqing, we're not good at fighting. We'll be in the way if we stay. It's better for you to hide. Although they said it in a dignified manner, it was actually very hypocritical. Li Chongqing slightly curled his lips and didn't say anything. Seeing that the other party was getting closer, those people hurriedly ran into the room and locked it from the inside. In the end, only Han Dong, Jiang Tao, Zhang Xiaofeng, Yang Fan, and Yu Wei were left. You guys go in too, Li Chongqing said to them. Han Dong hesitated for a moment and finally nodded. He turned and walked into the room. Indeed, with his friendship with Li Chongqing, it wasn't to the point where he would stand with Li Chongqing. Yang Fan and Zhang Xiaofeng stood there without moving. They were extremely scared now. It's useless for you two to stay. Hurry up and go into the room. I have to take care of you when the fight starts. In the end, the two nodded at the same time and hid in the room. What about you? Li Chongqing looked at Jiang Tao. Jiang Tao hesitated for a moment and finally shook his head. I can't let you take the risk alone. Although I'm not good at fighting, I've lived for more than 20 years. I've never encountered anything as exciting as today. Chongqing, let me go crazy for my youth one last time. Jiang Tao's determined face surprised Li Chongqing. Yu Wei, who was next to him, grabbed a broom and held it with both hands. She looked like a tiger eyeing its prey. But how could a little girl like her have any lethality? Li Chongqing couldn't help but laugh and shake his head. You're a girl. Standing here will only distract me. Hurry up and hide. It'll be too late if you don't leave now. Yu Wei just shook her head firmly. I want to fight by your side. You're really stupid. I can't protect you with so many people. You'll suffer. I'm not afraid. Her starry eyes were full of determination. Li Chongqing chuckled. Well, don't regret it when you get beaten up. Jiang Tao, who was at the side, laughed. Suddenly, he felt a sense of warmth and envy. Thinking of Su-Ying, who didn't care about him and hid in the room, he inexplicably felt sad. At this time, more than 30 people had walked over. They stood 5 steps away from Li Chongqing. The fat man in the lead pointed at Li Chongqing and scolded, "Little bastard, you dare to hit your father? See if I don't kill you today." Chapter 110. The group of people was aggressive, and the narrow corridor was filled with people. The leader of the group probably thought that he had the advantage of numbers and was confident. His greasy face made him look domineering. Unfortunately, he was facing Li Chongqing, a person who couldn't be judged by common sense. Without waiting for the other party to continue talking, Li Chongqing took a big stride forward and took the lead. The fat man with the bandage on his head didn't expect that the other party would dare to take the initiative to attack. The fat man, who had already experienced Li Chongqing's fierceness, subconsciously took a step back. However, when he saw the group of helpers behind him, He regained his courage and shouted, F*CKU, see if I don't kill you. He raised the iron rod in his hand and smashed it down on Li Chongqing's head. Jiang Tao, who had stayed behind to fight alongside Li Chongqing, stood there stupidly. He was at a loss and didn't know what to do. A strong man walked over and slapped Jiang Tao on the head and scolded, Get lost. Only then did Jiang Tao react. He raised his fist and wanted to fight back, but he was kicked 3 steps back by his opponent. He sat on the ground and was dumbfounded on the spot. Yu Wei, who was holding a broom, was aggressive. However, when she compared herself to the other party's size, she couldn't raise the broom anymore. The other party still had some basic humanity. When he saw Yu Wei, a delicate girl, he didn't directly destroy her. The fact proved that the 2 companions who had stayed behind to fight alongside Li Chongqing were completely useless. Looking at the other party's iron rod, Li Chongqing raised his arm to block. Then, he grabbed the iron rod and pulled the other party forward. Then, he used his knee to hit the other party's lower abdomen. In the next moment, the man clutched his stomach and fell to the ground, his body curled up like a shrimp. At the same time, Li Chongqing threw the iron rod behind him with all his might, accurately hitting the back of the head of the brawny man who had raised his fist in front of Yu Wei. Immediately, the 1.8-meter brawny man fainted on the ground. Yu Wei was so scared that she took 2 steps back. On the other side, Jiang Tao got up from the ground and rushed over to the brawny man on the ground and kicked him several times. Only then did he discover that the brawny man had fainted. On the other side, Li Chongqing, who had taken down the greasy man, was exceptionally brave in the face of more than 30 people who were rushing towards him. He didn't even bat an eyelid, and every time he attacked, a person would fall to the ground. In addition, the corridor was not big to begin with. It was as if one man could hold the pass against 10,000 men. In the blink of an eye, 5 or 6 people fell to the ground. At this time, Jiang Tao finally mustered up some courage. He picked up a steel pipe and rushed over with a roar. These people, who were somewhat frightened by Li Chongqing's fierce fighting, subconsciously dodged when they saw Jiang Tao's movements. However, the next funny scene happened. They saw Jiang Tao pass by Li Chongqing, but his foot was tripped by a guy who had fallen to the ground. In an instant, he flew 3 meters forward and fell to the ground. His iron rod also flew out, making the group of enemies dumbfounded. Li Chongqing's cheeks twitched as he shook his head. Just when those people were about to attack Jiang Tao, he suddenly jumped high and stepped on 2 people's chests with his feet. He then landed on the ground with a somersault, and then, with a perfect roundhouse kick, he directly kicked one of the guys who rushed towards him and sent him flying. Only then did he clear the space around Jiang Tao and help him up. Looking at Jiang Tao's bruised and swollen face, Li Chongqing couldn't help but laugh. He shouted to Yu Wei behind him, "Take care of Jiang Tao. Next, watch your husband's performance." Turning his head, he hooked his finger at the more than 20 enemies who were still standing, full of provocation. Among them, a bad-tempered guy rushed up while cursing. At this time, Li Chongqing performed a high-difficulty flying kick. His body jumped up and stepped on the wall beside him. Then, his left leg exerted force and his right leg suddenly swept out, hitting the opponent's cheek. The opponent directly spun 3 times on the spot before fainting on the ground. Generally, very few people were able to perform this move in a fight. Those acrobatic performers were able to perform it, but it was usually just for show and didn't have any lethality. However, Li Chongqing's move was incomparably fierce and had a great visual impact. Sure enough, after this move was used, the remaining people were all greatly intimidated. The fierce momentum from before no longer existed. Each and every one of them looked at Li Chongqing with some fear, thinking that today they had met a martial arts master. However, even if they didn't take the initiative to attack, it didn't mean that Li Chongqing would give up. Li Chongqing, who was in high spirits, rushed into the crowd like a hungry tiger pouncing on its prey. With his strong body and iron fists, those people's steel pipes hitting Li Chongqing's body were like scratching an itch for Li Chongqing. Every time he punched, someone would fall to the ground. The crowd, who were already shocked by Li Chongqing's strength, became even more panicked. Although these people were usually brave and fierce, in the end, they were just ordinary hooligans. They had never seen such a brave person. Finally, after Li Chongqing punched out a person's teeth, this group of people completely lost their composure. After the first person turned around and ran, the rest of the people followed suit. Thus, a very dramatic scene appeared. A thin and weak youth chased after a burly man in the corridor. Unfortunately, that group of burly men couldn't outrun the youth. From time to time, one of them would be caught and fall to the ground. By the time they reached the elevator, there were less than 5 people left. Just as the elevator door opened, the 5 people rushed in. Just as the elevator door was about to close and their faces were already filled with joy, a figure rushed in dangerously. As a result, the elevator was filled with clanking sounds. On the first floor, several guests were waiting for the elevator. When the elevator door opened, each and every one of them widened their eyes. They saw 5 burly men lying on the ground and constantly howling. A young man leisurely walked out of the elevator and said to the stunned security guard, "Throw these guys out of the hotel. Also, there are more than 20 people on the 3rd floor. You go up and deal with them." Then, he directly went up the stairs. On the 3rd floor, seeing Li Chongqing appear in the corridor, Jiang Tao smiled. He was a little embarrassed, but also a little excited. Yu Wei, who was next to him, finally breathed a sigh of relief and threw the broom in her hand to the ground. Li Chongqing came over and rubbed Yu Wei's hair. Then, he shouted at the still closed door of the guest room, "It's okay. You can come out now." After a long time, the door opened a small gap. When they saw the people lying on the ground and wailing, they came out. "Jiang Tao, are you okay?" Seeing Jiang Tao standing there, Su Ying hurriedly rushed over and asked with concern. Jiang Tao didn't say anything, but there was a faint indifference in his eyes. Han Dong looked at Li Chongqing with a complicated expression. At this time, the security guard had already come up. He was responsible for directing the security guard to clean up the scene. As for the other rich second generations, they all came over to Li Chongqing and gave him a thumbs up. They all flattered Li Chongqing and said that they wanted to be his apprentice. Li Chongqing just smiled and didn't say anything. He didn't expect these people to face it with him. There was no hope, but he wasn't disappointed either. However, no matter how insightful he was, when the real thing happened, he couldn't help but feel a little emotional. Chapter 111. After this conflict, no one was in the mood to go out at night. After a hasty dinner in the restaurant of the hotel, they went back to their rooms to sleep. Li Chongqing and Yu Wei shared a room with only a big double bed. Yu Wei's cheeks were a little red. She said weakly, "Can I sleep with Hao Ting? She has a room by herself." Li Chongqing went directly to lock the door and refused her request with action. Yu Wei blinked her big eyes. Her face was full of grievances and she looked pitiful. Unfortunately, Li Chongqing was not moved at all. In the end, she silently got under the quilt and did not move. Her body was tense and she was ready to die. Li Chongqing smiled. First, he turned on the TV and watched the news for a while. Through the frequency of her breathing, he judged that the woman next to him was not asleep. After turning off the TV, he went to take a shower. When he came out, he saw that her eyelashes were still trembling slightly. He could not help but smile. "Do you want to take a shower?" Li Chongqing asked. Yu Wei did not answer, but her face was red and she was extremely cute. He went to bed, turned off the light, and gently reached out to hold her waist. Yu Wei's body was tense. He could hear her heartbeat through her thin clothes. However, after waiting for a long time, Li Chongqing did not do anything. When she boldly turned back, she found that the man next to her had fallen asleep. In the early morning, Yu Wei could not bear the sleepiness and fell asleep. When she opened her eyes, she found that Li Chongqing had put the breakfast on the table. Seeing that she was still in neat clothes, Yu Wei felt a little lucky and a little disappointed. You didn't come back all night. Will your parents be worried? Li Chongqing sat in the rattan chair, lit a cigarette, and asked. I told them that I was going to my classmate's house. After Yu Wei went to the bathroom to wash up, she was probably a little hungry. She finished all the breakfast Li Chongqing had bought for her. You go back to Qingzhou with Jiang Tao and the others today. I still have some things to do in Chuzhou City, Li Chongqing said. Yu Wei hummed and nodded obediently. When it was about 10 o'clock, Li Chongqing sent off Yu Wei and Jiang Tao, then made a phone call. Where are you? I'll go look for you. When he woke up in the morning, he saw a text message from Bai Qianxue, saying that it was time for him to fulfill his promise. Li Chongqing naturally knew what it was. After agreeing to pretend to be her boyfriend to meet her fiancé, Li Chongqing replied to Bai Qianxue's message asking for her location. Bai Qianxue said that she was in Chuzhou City, so Li Chongqing replied with a "okay." Han Dong and Li Chongqing sent off the few people and stood there looking at the ordinary-looking young man with a complicated expression. In the end, Han Dong couldn't help but ask, Chongqing, what does your family do for a living? He wanted to confirm his guess. My parents are both dead, so the world is my home. After Li Chongqing said this, Han Dong saw that he didn't seem to be faking it. He couldn't help but feel a little disappointed. I'm sorry that you had to deal with what happened yesterday alone. Han Dong hesitated a second and said. At the same time, he handed Li Chongqing a card. This is my business card. If you run into any trouble in Chuzhou City, you can come to me. Also, I have reserved a room for you in this hotel for a week. You can come and stay at any time. Okay. Li Chongqing didn't refuse. He took the card and thanked Han Dong. Then, he walked to the side of the road and called a taxi. He told the driver where Bai Qianxue had told him. The driver nodded to show that he understood. Then, he sat in the back seat and closed his eyes. When Chun Fan saw Bai Qianxue, she was in a mansion. She didn't expect Li Chongqing to come so quickly. She was a little surprised. I just came to Chuzhou City with a friend. Li Chongqing explained, then pointed to the taxi driver waiting at the entrance of the villa and said, Go and pay the taxi fare. It's not much, just 20 yuan. I'm helping you, so from now on, you'll have to pay for every cost of clothing, food, housing, and transportation. Bai Qianxue was a little speechless. She thought to herself, is it necessary to be so calculative over 20 yuan? As long as Chun Fan helped her, she would be able to afford it even if it was 10,000 20s. The driver had thought that Li Chongqing was just a poor student. When he heard that Li Chongqing was coming to the mansion, he was a little surprised. However, in the end, Li Chongqing had to ask someone to pay the 20 yuan for him, especially when the person who came out was a beautiful woman. The driver couldn't help but mumble to himself, I don't understand the world anymore. I will take you to meet some friends and let everyone believe that you are my boyfriend. After meeting my fiancé and completing my plan, I will give you a sum of money as your reward. Bai Qianxue briefly explained what Li Chongqing was going to do next. I don't care about money. You helped me, so of course I have to help you. This is a very fair thing. Li Chongqing smiled and then reached out his hand to Bai Qianxue. What do you mean? Bai Qianxue was stunned. Give me the money for the event. Take a taxi, eat, shop, and buy clothes. Since I am going to pretend to be your boyfriend, I have to pay for it. I don't have any money. Okay. Bai Qianxue didn't know whether to laugh or cry. This guy just said that he didn't care about money. Now, he was asking her for money. She really didn't know what kind of person he was. My uncle is going to treat a boss in Chuzhou City to lunch. This will be your first appearance as my boyfriend. I hope you don't give yourself away. Bai Qianxue took out a suit from the room and threw it on the sofa. This is tailor-made for you. Put it on. We will leave in a bit. Li Chongqing nodded and went into the room to change into the suit. He was in a suit. It was true that people needed clothes, and Buddha relied on gold. Standing in front of the mirror, Li Chongqing felt that he looked quite good in the suit. Behind him, Bai Qianxue looked at Li Chongqing, who had changed from head to toe. She was surprised. Although he still didn't look handsome, his temperament had changed. She couldn't help but think of her childhood sweetheart. The scene of him confessing to her in a suit when he graduated from junior high was still vivid in her mind. However, in the end, he broke his promise to her and chose to retreat in the face of her powerful fiancé's family. However, the man in front of her still chose to pretend to be her boyfriend after learning about her fiancé's power, just to keep a promise. She couldn't describe the feeling in her heart, but with a complicated look in her eyes, she walked over to Li Chongqing and straightened out his wrinkled clothes. Then she smiled and said, "You look very handsome now." You're tuning in to the Phoenix Nights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.